Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Matt Taylor here with my good buddy
Carlson.
And today we have John Carlson in the house. How you doing, John?
I'm doing all right. Thanks for getting me out of the house.
Yeah, you're welcome. We were talking beforehand, but it's really weird because this is the first time that we've ever had a guest on that neither one of us actually know in person, which is kind of interesting. But you have such a prolific Facebook presence that I feel like I do.
And one of the best ones out there, really. Positive. I never see you I don't see you throwing poop at back and forth and stuff like I do. You're always reasonable and people really and people respect that.
Yeah.
And even people like me respect that.
I'll take that. Yeah, it's a tricky thing because part of I guess just how I see the world is just there's no reason to get snippy with people unless they deserve it, and most people really don't deserve it until you get to Facebook comments on the Brainerd Dispatch, and that's okay, gloves are off, let's go.
That's where I the Dispatch, their website back in the day is where I kind of cut my teeth in the world of the poop slinging Facebook argument. And because there was a few people on there that it was on a daily basis. I'd be like, well, my allies, Joe Radinovich.
Yeah.
He and I and a few other like-minded individuals would argue with the same people. But that one, we argued and there was it was probably worse than Facebook in some ways. But eventually we had a get together, we got together downtown and had drinks and stuff because a lot of these people I actually, I kind of enjoyed too, and of course, when you argue with the same people all the time, you kind of, enjoy them. A lot of them. Some of them,
exactly.
Because there's guys, like Tom, Tom Fanjoy.
Yeah, he's always.
Yeah, I know
contrarian.
Tom. I enjoy the shit out of Tom.
Yeah.
When I see him, he doesn't go out very often. But I see him out and stuff. I super enjoy him. He's one of the coolest guys you'll ever meet. And then, on Facebook, I'm like, you're an idiot. And he's likewise, and stuff like that. I enjoy that so much. But getting together for a face to face, it was awesome. Now a few people skipped it, a few of the real a few of the real turds skipped it. But that's that was really cool. One of these days I'm gonna try to do a big roundup when the world is back to normal. I'd like to round up a bunch of the Facebook do the same thing for the Facebook bunch. Yeah.
That'd be all right.
Although things being what they are nowadays, they'll probably you can't bring guns. You can't bring any guns. I'm not gonna bring a gun. You're not gonna bring a gun. Okay, I brought a gun. But,
I'm not telling you. It's fine.
What? Everybody brought a gun? This party's gonna be awesome.
Absolutely.
Guns make parties better. So, John, are you really as nice as you appear?
No, I'm a complete ass.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't know.
It seems like you are just such a fucking glorious human being. Where you are constantly bringing fucking old ladies Depends and shit, and you're just always doing. And I'm like, that fucking guy is too fucking nice. I can't handle it.
That's because he walks the walk while we just virtue signal and
I don't virtue signal.
I'm just kidding.
I won't I'm not above virtue signaling. I just don't care enough to virtue.
Well, that term's
signal.
getting thrown around a lot lately because
Exactly.
I have seen there are people that I argue with on Facebook that don't seem to know what it means because they think that every time you aren't a piece of shit, you're virtue signaling. And which is fucking weird for me because I don't do the same. I don't do the stuff that he does.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if if when you're not being a piece of shit, you're virtue signaling. You still don't virtue signal very often.
Right? Well, and like I always say, like
That was a
personally,
well-crafted put down. I think.
I'm a
Well done.
like I'm a shit person, and I have to like think my way through a lot of stuff to do the right thing. Like I always have to like because all my impulses are always like, yeah, push that lady. I think she can stop that bus, but let's put it to the test. But I don't. I have to like tell myself like, well, here's here's what you should do, all the fucking time, because I'm to offset my garbage human beingness. But so like this, I'm like, no, I wasn't virtue signaling. I was just trying to do the right thing because to like offset all my shitty stuff. But then no doubt we see you like, with because you operate that food shelf thing.
I'm coming to town. If anybody needs anything, like just send me a message. I can run to the store for you. Fuck you. What the hell?
No shit. I've got shoulder surgery. He tells Christine, well, if you guys need help carrying anything, like let me know. Like, damn, it's everybody that you can possibly help. You offer, like, you're in there.
There's this guy who I used to know, but I just saw a post on Facebook. His name is Ken, but I fucking cracked me up, and he's an asshole, like a dyed in the wool, asshole. But he said, "God, the other day I was going through McDonald's and the lady behind me was just like honking her horn and being just a bitch because I was taking too long.
Yeah.
So when I got up to the window, I decided that I would pay for her order." Because why not? Be a nice guy. But then when I got to the second window, I showed them both receipts. And I took her order. So that bitch had to go back around to the end of the line. And I was like, oh my God, that's fucking awesome.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Evil genius.
Yeah.
Love that shit.
Showed them both receipts. Pay it forward. Nope.
And that totally fooled me too, because I was like, oh, to like make her be, to make her like, oh, make her think about it.
Well,
no, what he did was way better though.
Right up till the time she got to that second window.
That's fantastic.
That's brilliant, actually. That's absolutely brilliant.
He probably heard that on like from a stand-up comic or something.
Probably.
Like that. But I don't give a shit. It's amazing. It's new to me. So
creatively
awesome.
Diabolical is the best form of diabolical, and that's way up on that list. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
I thought it was pretty awesome.
No, that's fantastic.
So you do this mobile food shelf. Tell me what that is.
Yeah, Northwood's Emergency Mobile Food Shelf. Basically, it's a one-person gig, which is me. I try to keep a bunch of stuff on hand at all times. The idea is that instead of helping people directly, I know so many good people and people that are kind-hearted but maybe aren't particularly active in helping people, but would definitely be somebody like I could see either one of you guys being like somebody's like, dude, my house literally is on fire right now. You know what I mean?
Dude,
and people would
I'm not a firefighter.
No, but people would talk to you and come up and go, dude, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And I can imagine guys like you would be, okay, that's awesome, but it's 2 a.m. It's a Tuesday morning. What the f- do I have? You know what I mean? Like, what can I possibly do? And my idea was, I know so many people that are like that I can serve as a resource for them. And so when people come up to you and say, dude, this is going on in my life, I can't clothe my kid.
Right.
I want you to be able to go, holy Christ, it's 2 a.m. I know a dude that's got stuff. And put a phone call into me, and I drive my butt down there and drop it off and take off. That's it. Huh. And I can either give it to you to deliver, or I can drop it off myself. But we do things like food, clothing.
I saw space heaters.
Yeah, space heaters. That was a big request. That was something that we did, and just when it was super cold a couple years ago. And I've kind of been slowly building this thing up to kind of put it on a slightly...
So you're just independently wealthy, and you're able to just like, how do you do it?
I wouldn't say that I'm independently wealthy, but I'm in a financial position to be able to do this.
So
I
this
should.
is just basically something you finance out of your own pocket?
Yeah. There's no donations. I don't actually have it set up as a formal charity. It's all totally informal. Everybody that I work with.
Yeah, you are that fucking nice. God damn it.
Yeah, but we do everything
Till
from
we find the bodies.
exactly. just don't go digging in the
Other
south of the
shoe-
yard. I
other
appreciate
shoe will
that.
drop.
Yeah, exactly. Just don't go digging near the septic. That's all I ask.
Enjoy those steaks I left in there too.
Oh man, we just watched Hannibal and that threw me off. All right.
Oh, is that the series?
Yeah.
Okay. I like watching the Super Bowl the other day. I was like, okay, the commercials are bad, but like compared to most years. But what I really thought sucked was CBS's programming now sucks.
Yeah.
But I saw that and I was like, because I love those shows, particularly like Red Dragon. I think
Yeah.
was my favorite. But when I saw the thing for the series, I was like, okay, that looks like they spent some money on
Is
it
this
and
a
stuff.
new series? Because
Yeah.
there was an
Yeah,
old.
it's-
there was an old series.
about
It's not
Clarice
the same
Starling or
one.
whatever.
Yeah, it's not the same one. It's all about Clarice, and that's it.
Huh.
So it follows her.
Is it decent?
Agent
I
Starling.
haven't seen that one yet. I'm talking about the one that was on, I think, NBC. I don't really know. We just stream everything, so I don't pay attention.
Oh, the Hannibal series.
Yeah, the Hannibal
Gotcha.
series with
That was a few years
That's
ago.
I forgot about that one.
Yeah. Oh, it's phenomenal.
That's
Oh.
got that
Yeah.
dude that plays Hannibal is the guy that's been like in a Valhalla Rising.
Yeah.
And he's in a lot of artsy shows.
Yeah, Swedish actor Mad Matson. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah,
super
I watched
creepy.
a few. I think I watched a few of those, and I just didn't like.
I really like him.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not. I have a hard time. Depending on where I'm at in my life, like I only watch TV with like somebody usually. So if
Yeah.
at whatever point in my life I wasn't. But you like that, Hannibal?
Yeah, it was great because they never actually talked about Hannibal being Hannibal. For like the entire first season, they would just show him,
Isn't he
preparing
kind of like
food.
Isn't he kind of like a forensic?
Yeah, well, he was
investigator, kinda?
he was a highly trained psychologist, so that was the
Okay.
whole thing. And so he actually helps assist the FBI with different cases
Interesting,
and
okay,
different
yeah.
things, but they never reference Hannibal actually being a cannibal. Like for the entire first 2 seasons, it's just not a thing. But because we all grew up with Silence of the Lambs,
I
we all
appreciate
know that the dude's eating people, right? So they would show him cooking meat and different things and feeding people. Every episode, they would just show him just delicately slicing up, clearly what is thigh. You know what I mean? But they wouldn't show it with the flesh, so you wouldn't know.
Huh.
But it was geniusly done because literally the first time I'm like, yeah, we can't watch this while we eat. Like, we can't. We just cannot. Because that's what we do. We just kick back in the evening and eat food and watch TV.
You and your
Me and my wife. Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, who keeps
Yeah.
a very low Facebook profile, probably because I'm
I
so
don't
public.
even- yeah.
So,
Well, see, Christine's not. Well, Christine's nothing like me, but her Facebook profile is usually just. I mean, it's just boo boo and
It's
furniture.
boo-boo and furniture.
yeah, pretty much.
Huh.
But I mean, then again, she's not. She's like apolitical.
Yeah.
She doesn't have anything mean to say about anyone. Which apolitical and you don't have anything mean to say anyone. Do you have mean shit to say about anybody? Why do you even have Facebook?
Exactly. There's no need for social media.
but yeah, so I get that. Well, and like Meta also has a super grown up Facebook presence.
She's actually kind of a grown up, which is weird.
Well, that's the thing.
Why
Like
is
Christine
she
is
with
too.
me?
And then
I never did get that.
I hurl poop for the whole family.
Yeah. So I was stalking your Facebook a little bit. And,
All right, then.
I thought it was pretty awesome. You list yourself as a novelist, a humorist, a gentleman of leisure, and the BLA
see,
community.
And I
trivia
didn't
mafia
know that
host.
you wrote until I
didn't.
know shortly after
That's
we
why I'm
became
asking the
Facebook
question.
friends. I was like, because I said something to you about it. I was like, God damn, because usually like if something is like the length of a Facebook post will often like lose me. I'll be like, yup, but yours I always read the whole thing because I really enjoy your writing. And then when you told me that you'd actually done a lot of writing, I was like, oh well, that makes sense. That's why it's fucking really good.
So you So you've written a novel? Multiple novels?
I've written a novella, and I've also done one sort of nonfiction, sort of weird journaling that kind of became a story and released that. That was a while back.
What's the novella?
The novella is just it's a short story, basically, that I kind of developed, and the idea was I basically just kind of created a person that was incredibly drunk all the time, trying to function through life, and just falling upwards, if that makes any sort of sense.
Sure.
With every mistake, it just seemed to work out for him, and you would get into more and more obviously difficult situations, but he would just get more and more drunk. And for some reason, he succeeded through it until it all completely collapsed. And that was basically the story.
And is this like something like where could I get it? Where could I read
I
it?
am not that big. I am not on Amazon. I'm not there yet. I'm waiting to be. Right now, I'm hoping with the novel I'm working on that it'll be at that level, because both of them I didn't think deserved to be published, and they were self-released just due to people asking me for it.
Oh, okay.
So it was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I should really do it. And part of what brought me up to the woods was to become more of a writer. You know, I worked as a journalist for years. Economics is my background.
Oh, okay. What did you do as a journalist?
UPI, United Press International. It's a pool.
Okay.
If you guys know like anything about journalism, like
Nope.
pool journalists.
We don't know anything about anything.
Okay, yeah. Basically, like when you see like bylines on paper, sometimes you'll see like AP or Reuters.
Sure.
Yeah, UPI is one of those. There's three big ones: Reuters, AP, and UPI. UPI was more world-based, so I was based over in Europe most of the time. So I
Really?
worked in Berlin, Brussels, London. So that's where I was at for a good chunk of my career.
Huh.
So, but I always had a place in Minneapolis, but I basically was abroad for a good, if I put it in time, probably about 5 years.
So
But
what did you cover? Just
economics mostly.
Oh, okay.
Without boring everybody to death. Basically what I did was...
actually, do you listen to podcasts?
I do listen to some podcasts, yeah.
Like Freakonomics is one of my favorite
Freakonomics is phenomenal.
podcasts. And because I think that like economists look at things in a way that because it's objective. So like they're not they can be apolitical
Yeah.
about a situation and yet really come up with real answers.
Yeah.
I think if you want somebody to solve your fucking problems, you need an economist.
I would not disagree with that. However, I definitely think that how do I want to put this? I don't know if you guys know this. I was also the chair of the DFL for Cass County. I should probably get that publicly out of the way before we do anything. Talking about journalism, I definitely wasn't biased as a journalist, but once I left journalism, I became politically involved. So let's get that out of the way. But yeah, in terms of economics, what you're really looking at is a group of people that, due to statistics, lack empathy.
Yeah.
Realistically speaking, they try to quantify empathy, and empathy can't be quantified. And you need to have somebody that's able to take that empathy and apply it with economics. That's where I see so many people failing when we talk about things politically, when we talk about things like taxes. I don't care how much or how little you tax me. I care about return on investment.
Exactly.
If I'm going to get...
But I think that isn't that an economist's approach?
Absolutely, it's an economic approach. That's how. If I look at it and say, look, if everybody is spending at least $20,000 in taxes, that's crazy high level, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if for $20,000 we have our healthcare taken care of, we have free, from cradle to the grave education up to PhD level. If we just provide all that for $20,000 a year, that sounds all right to me. You know what I mean? And so it's all about balancing out what you get. And I think a lot of economists lack that, and politicians lack the economic background to understand the difference between the two. And you really need to have politicians that take a very pragmatic approach with economics and recognize how to work the system.
So when we were talking about universal health care, like that was my I feel like having universal health care is a fiscally conservative thing to do.
It's absolutely a fiscally conservative
And
move.
so it pisses me off when conservatives are all like, "Oh, you just want your everybody to get shit for free," blah 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 blah. But it's like, no.
Yeah, that shit's infuriating.
Because
Yes, it is.
if when the thing is if we don't have universal health care, then you just end up paying for it anyway.
Yeah.
Because people still go to the hospital,
Yeah.
but they're not getting the preventative care that they need. So by the time they go to the hospital, because their appendix
It's
is
some
now
big holy shit
example.
Yeah,
situation, like financially and health wise.
Yeah, well, that's the whole cost indebted into the system. The problem is like in the U.S., like, and this is me getting political, which
Hey,
is
guess what?
dangerous.
Totally okay.
Hey, well, I don't mind being political. I've managed campaigns, I've done that sort of stuff. So I mean, I try to avoid talking politics in public.
I do
but
enjoy on your Facebook posts though. You always, whenever you are going to get political, you put a warning out there.
Yeah, I always put a warning.
And I'm like, fair enough, right? Like, if you don't want to read it,
Exactly. Well, I've got friends of all
but
political
I
stripes.
don't read your shit that doesn't have the political warning.
You know what? I've got friends that literally are just like, dude, could you quit with the dog pics and just talk more political shit? And I'm just like, yeah, I know.
Right.
They're like,
Yeah.
you are common sense, dude. I like hearing your common sense. I'm just like, all right, but
Okay.
yeah, so like universal healthcare, right? It's economically conservative as hell because you're literally you're removing profit from the equation.
Yeah.
So once you remove profit from the equation, you remove two of the four largest industries in the U.S. profit. You're talking pharmaceuticals and healthcare. And when I'm saying healthcare, I'm not saying actual suppliers of healthcare. I'm talking health insurance.
Right.
So places like UHC, Blue Cross Blue Shield, things like that. When you remove just what Americans pay in profit, then not what we actually have our insurance, pay hospitals, just what we pay insurance that they pocket.
Right.
Comes out to more per capita than England spends in the NHS for their national healthcare service.
Right.
So we're actually subsidizing a middleman that does nothing.
Right. That essentially just
Exists to make profit.
Exists to make profit. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't actually deliver anything. And people say, well, that's the concept of insurance is like a mutual aid society of the old-timey folk where everybody puts in money and then when an emergency happens, they can access the fund. That was where all this sort of originated from. But we put it onto a different footing when we formalized the process.
Right.
And now we've created this huge profit barrier that I think I read in 2018, 58% of Americans have made medical decisions based off of cash first.
Right.
Not need, cash.
That reminded me of one of the stupidest fucking arguments I've ever heard for anything. I've seen it a couple of times where people objecting to like single payer and stuff like that because they figured that it would put people in the insurance industry out of their jobs. And I'm like, wait a fucking minute,
Exactly.
like, okay, you know what? I'll admit to it. I'll cop to that. Yeah, maybe it would. But you don't see like, man, if I just go like, if the hooker keeps all this money, that poor pimp, like.
Exactly. It's literally, it's like, okay, I know I've got a small business and I'm getting shook down by the mob, but, what will happen to the actual extortionist that shows up to the house if I decide not to pay this? Right. That person's family is going to go without food, without health insurance.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
Exactly. I can't do that. That's not humanitarian. I've got to pay the extortion fee. It's the stupidest logic I've ever heard.
And it made me like... Sometimes, like, I just won't touch shit like that. Like, sometimes you can get to a point in the argument, as much as I like to argue, sometimes you get to a point in the argument where you're like, fuck.
Trust me.
And then that fucking little thing goes out. You replay that in yourself, in your head, that quote about, like, arguing with, like, an idiot, like, they'll drag you down and fucking...
Was that Mark Twain?
Exactly.
Something about overwhelming you with their experience.
Well, no, yeah, like
that, whatever like that.
Like what is this quote? Arguing with an.
You know who knows this? Shelley, right now.
Yes, I'm sure she's like just screaming.
Somewhere her head is
idiot.
exploding. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean,
oh my God! Speaking of Shelley, she made a fucking Bernie doll.
I saw it.
So great. Like cause that's my sister. She made me the Baby Yoda.
Oh, that's sweet.
And-
I'm not going to deny.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. But then she made one of the like Bernie with the little gloves on thing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and
Nice.
it's pretty awesome. I'm not gonna say.
Yeah, because I made that joke about making Matt and Kyle dolls, only she would like go broke buying stuffing for the Kyle doll.
Yeah, that's true.
No, that's funny.
This year's been tough on me.
No, it's funny because I do try to stay so balanced on my page. But the fact of the matter is like in 2000, I was part of the Minnesota Green Party. I actually chaired Minneapolis for Ralph Nader back in the day.
Yeah, I was a Nader Raider. But
Yeah, Nader Leduc. Yeah,
I
absolutely.
just saw her. She was at the. I was up in Bacchus.
Stop line 3.
Yeah, I was up there, and of course, I spent most of the time like talking to Gary Payne, who is always great, and I I can't say enough good things about that dude. But he's like, that's the one I want to do, and I'm like, he's like, do you remember her? And I'm like, fuck yeah, that's awesome.
I actually went to a dinner with her. It was probably 3 or 4 years ago now. No, it was longer than that. 7 years ago.
It was like a date, or
well, no,
she never called you back.
She's not bad. Okay. No, it was actually it was up in Nisswa, and it was this guy that his name was the sous chef, right?
Oh yeah,
And he was
yeah,
Native
yeah,
American.
yeah.
Okay.
No.
And it was all very like traditional, like Native American dishes or whatever, and it was fucking cool. It was really cool.
Yeah.
I was like, I could use some salt.
Some pepper, please.
Were you up at that?
I was not at that.
Okay.
I was not. No, I mean, I know a lot of people on the left, but I literally try to be as much of a shut-in as humanly possible. So COVID's actually worked out pretty well for me.
Yeah.
I always say like I'm incredibly sociable up until a point. You know what I mean? Like I'm definitely cool like small groups of people. I'm definitely cool like I host trivia for a bunch of people. That's totally fine. But if I'm like at a party, oh God, that's like the worst possible thing for me.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I'd rather just sit down in a corner with somebody, bottle of whiskey, and let's just bullshit about whatever until, dawn.
Yeah.
That's ideal, So any big group event, unless I needed to be there because one of my candidates was there or whatever, then I would go,
Yeah.
But outside of that, I try to avoid all that sort of stuff.
I've never
Doesn't do any
been.
good for me.
I've always kind of felt that I'm, kind of an introvert as well, which seems weird because like I've forever owned bars and been bars and whatever. But I mean, like I'm cool with just being by myself for a long period of time. But COVID has definitely put that to the test.
I slowly shifted it because I used to be
Yeah, you
awful. Like, I mean, I could not be by myself.
Yeah.
Like, I would not be by myself. And like, I'd love to go. I mean, the busier, noisier, the bar, the concert, the fucking like whatever the sex. But like, but I'm like, like I always had to be around people and shit like that, and just and then eventually like, what I think did it. Working in bars and shit like that. Besides just getting older, working in bars, eventually I would take like my Sunday, my like one day off out of the week. And I would fucking hide out, and nobody would I wouldn't answer the phone, and people knew this. Like if I was if I was dating a girl or something like that, she would need to understand this. Like these things. It was fucking a rule. I mean, I'd see my son because he lived with me, but like I just barely because he tried to make himself scarce. And I just fucking had that day where I wasn't around anyone. I would because I like watching like sports by myself and shit. I'd watch the game, whatever, it was me day, whatever the fuck I wanted to do.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then and then like eventually I don't have that anymore, but I am still like a hermit. Like with COVID and shit now, I'm like,
yeah, you've gotten hermity.
Big time. Well, and I had to explain that to a friend the other day because he was, because he wanted to see me, and he's like, "Man, come on, we're having a." And then I got into the whole like boo boos immune system thing, which he knows about. Mostly people like respect that I'm trying to fucking for the baby and and take my dad to chemo, stuff like that.
Well, and it was also like a huge life change for you, going from being a 47-year-old man like that
Yeah.
party all the time. Party all the time. Married, grandbaby, baby. You know, all that really quick.
I can't be like, oh, geez, you know, like I've been up all I've been up all night fucking drinking and doing blow and fucking now I got to take care of the baby. That shit doesn't gel, you know. Like,
Exactly.
sorry if that's news for anyone, but that shit does not gel. But I've become a hermit, and even like with all the like the prepper stuff and shit like that, you know, like my hobbies. I went from like I don't give a fuck, like I've got nothing to like. I give a fuck. I'm nervous about like shit that I wasn't even on my radar a while ago. You know? I shouldn't say nervous, but
speaking of the COVID thing, have either of you guys got the vaccine yet?
No, not yet.
I tried. See, I thought because I'm in a couple of I'm obese and I have the liver issue, but like, because I found out that 80% of people that get hospitalized are like vitamin D deficient and stuff.
Yes, you
Which,
definitely
you
should
know,
be taking vitamin D.
Well, I mean, and I have to anyway because I got that fucking liver/kidney thing, which I'm sure I did to myself. So I was like, oh, so I've got that against me, you know, like a couple of other things, whatever. And I'm like, I went on my health, and I'm like, so how does this work? Like, are you? Because I keep seeing on social media all these fucking super random ass people getting it, and I'm like, I want to get it. You know,
and I would think with Boo Boo's
with the autoimmune thing too,
like that you would be.
I know.
Well, I got mine. I got my first one on Wednesday.
Well, fuck you.
And
Yeah, no shit.
well, I and I don't know how I got it. I know how I got it.
I thought you seemed a little autism-y today.
That was good.
That was nice.
Yeah.
That was nice.
But I'm like in my day job, I work with runaway and homeless youth, so I interact with like clients or whatever, and so I don't know how, but through my work, I was able to get in there and do it. But I had COVID just in November.
Okay.
And apparently, if you've already had COVID, you should still get the vaccine, but you are likely to have a kind of an adverse side effect. Where,
Really?
Yeah, basically.
I had not heard that.
Well, I hadn't heard that until I showed up and got the goddamn vaccine. It was
and I grew a fucking tail.
Now,
Exactly.
like
The third eye has been really beneficial.
I don't want it. I've been watching Game of Thrones lately. Again, I don't want this to dissuade anybody from getting the vaccine, right? But holy fuck, it was horrible.
Yeah.
So I got.
Did you get sick, or was it just the soreness from the shot?
I got sick as a motherfucker.
Really?
Yeah. So I got the shot on Wednesday. Nothing. No big deal. Wasn't sore. Woke up the next day. They said I might have they said because you had COVID, you will probably get a fever, and you'll probably like be achy or whatever. It was bad.
Like mono bad or like?
It was as bad as COVID,
Oh, really?
but it was short.
Okay.
So it was just that one day and night of the fucking racking fevers, my joints being pulled apart.
Oh.
I wonder why that is. I had like I was gonna venture a guess, but I was afraid that what I said would sound so stupid that if Angie's watching this, she might slip into a fucking coma.
No, they don't know.
Hearing how stupid what I said was.
Like, what do you think it would be?
Oh, I was gonna say like, is it because like the shit like so the residual shit in your body, like along with the antibodies and everything else, whatever.
Yeah.
Like it's
I don't
like
know.
too much. Like once they get the vaccine in there,
We
too?
looked it up, and there wasn't really a good answer to why people who've already had COVID. Now anybody can get an adverse side effect from it. Not an adverse. You get a day of a fever and chills. 48 hours usually is at the most. But if you
And autism.
if you've already and autism, just a little, a wee bit up.
Just a
It
smidge.
just passes.
It's just we just call it
Whatever. You can't make eye contact
we're
that day.
calling-
Fucking.
we're just tism. That's all it is. But I don't fucking remember what I was saying. Oh yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why if you've already had COVID, it is and
That's one of those things that I would ask, and they would explain it to me, and I'd be like,
Well, I asked her. I asked the nurse, and she's like, we don't know.
"Oh, they don't know."
Fuck no, nobody knows anything about COVID. I mean, like that. It's like they know.
That's not true, because
It is-
plenty of guys that I went to high school with and stuff like that know all about COVID.
I was going to say a whole bunch of people that I went to high school with that didn't graduate high school know so much about it. It's not even funny.
I only done be graduated the 8th grade, so let's not be hacking on the dropouts here. Oh wow, hacking on. Huh,
he was hacking on me.
I think I had a fevered dream about Young Guns. I don't know, like because when I just said hacking on me, I was like, holy shit, that came right out of my dream.
There needs to be a third movie.
That would be direct-to-video.
And then supposedly,
Especially if they could get the old cast.
Exactly.
supposedly when you get the booster, if it's even worse.
Oh,
And I'm
really?
like, holy fuck, I don't know if I want to get the fucking
Damn.
booster. But
Oh,
yeah.
So how long ago did you get the shot?
Wednesday.
Wednesday? Okay.
So basically yesterday I
So
was
10 days is it that you have to wait, or how long is it?
No, it's I don't know, 21 days. Like they gave me a thing, and then they said they would they would send me an email when they get the boosters in. It's a range because so basically, and I think I got the Moderna. There's the Moderna and the Pfizer, but they're about the same as far as it goes. But yeah, you get the one, and then within a certain period of time you want to get the next one, but it's not determined. It's not exactly a certain. It's not like 21 days later. And they don't know.
You fuck up your window, and now you're like screwed.
Yeah,
oh,
exactly.
I'm gonna die.
And they don't.
Now
Even,
you got this third tail for nothing.
they don't even have the boosters. You know what I mean? She's like, we'll get a hold of you when we get the boosters in, and then you can come. Then you'll come back in.
Dude, that's a lot of trust. That's a lot of trust in the system.
Right.
Like,
in a governmental system.
But every
we're
system.
talking about universal healthcare or just healthcare in general. Like, it really does blow my mind how fucking amazing our I don't even want to say healthcare, but our medical industrial complex is. It's fucking amazing that within a year we came out with 2 fucking vaccines for coronavirus that are 97% effective.
But people
It's
are
mind blowing.
people are like not trusting this vaccine and stuff because of that exact thing, though.
That
which
happens so
it's
fast.
too good of a
Yeah.
system.
Yeah, but
just
they
yesterday,
put-
a friend of mine was and a good friend, who's not an idiot, was like, he's like, look at how long it took to cure polio, and we got this licked in how long? And I'm like, but I wasn't gonna argue, but I was like, well, that was a different world then.
there
Exactly. You didn't have computer models able to simulate out millions of different things
they
and be able to break down
also
DNA of
didn't
it.
put billions of dollars into polio.
I don't
right.
think there were billions of dollars in existence back then.
Right.
Exactly.
So this was what was it called? What was the effort called?
March of Dimes.
No. What was the effort this effort for coronavirus to come up with a vaccine? It's got a cool name.
I don't know.
Thunderbolt.
Oh, the actual operation, the government operation name? God, it was something goofy like that.
Yeah, it's like Thunderbolt or Lightning Strike or whatever. But it
Space Force.
basically
Space Force.
might be Space Force. I tried that on Netflix. Did you try Space?
Yeah.
I couldn't do it.
It was awful.
It was bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I got through 2 episodes. I was like, fuck
I
it.
tried to watch it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunate.
But everything about it, I thought I'd like. But I
Yeah.
just couldn't do it.
Steve Carell in a position of authority over something incredibly stupid. Okay, I'm down
Yeah.
for The Office
and it
2.0.
didn't lack for there was funny stuff in there.
It
you
just-
know?
I just-
but
it
it
just
just
wasn't
I don't
good
know. Something about it didn't really
Anyway,
grab me.
not Space Force, but Operation Zenith Breath or whatever it's called. Like, they poured a gazillion dollars into
Dragon
like,
cock.
to do it, and all of these different companies were working on it. So pretty amazing, and yet now we make this fucking amazing vaccine, and it's very difficult for anybody to get it. It's completely falling apart. Hopefully that will change now that
Yeah.
the administration.
I keep hearing people talk about people that have got died after taking the vaccine
No.
and stuff like that, and I'm like, I'm not hearing it. I'm not hearing the same thing. That
No,
they
there's
are.
been a few people who've had some really, really bad
allergic reactions.
allergic
and
reactions.
stuff like that.
Yeah, and they had to give them an antihistamine.
An antihistamine.
Exactly.
Maybe you should sit down for a while. Oh my God, what a nightmare!
Yeah, this whole effort has been a waste. Dear, gotta sit down for 4 hours. This is
You and your-
ridiculous.
You and your science.
Quit infringing on my rights.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I'm totally blown away by it. I absolutely am. It's totally amazing for me to watch because like totally opening up a vein with two guys I've never actually met before, like an hour and a half ago.
We're Facebook friends.
Yeah, Facebook friends works. When I was 26, my stomach and intestines ruptured. Basically, I was pumping stomach acid and bile into my system. It was attacking my heart and my lungs and everything else. And I was sitting on
like a peptic ulcer, or was it?
No, it actually totally had separated.
So it
So,
just-
like, think
We're
of
going
like
to say eating contest.
exactly. Think like where your stomach and your small intestine meet, basically split open. Basically, I had like alien happen, but it didn't actually leave the body cavity. And so ended up in the hospital. Long story short, basically they saved my life. I was like 10 minutes from death.
What caused it?
A whole host of things, but basically I'm like the world's youngest person for something called diverticulitis, which is like little tiny pockets that develop along the intestine.
Yep.
Yeah, so I had that, didn't know, but I also had something called severe malrotation. And malrotation is basically where you're born where your organs aren't supposed to be.
Oh.
And obviously you don't know until you get cut open. And so they cut open where I was screaming in pain because I knew something was up, right? And I'm like, this isn't right. I need to go to the hospital. And
you were 26?
yeah, 26.
Holy
yeah.
shit.
And they basically sliced me open thinking it was my appendix had burst. Because we're talking like 10 out of 10 pain. I've broken my legs. I know what pain is. That was the
This was
epic of
a
pain.
different
like,
level, yeah.
I'm like, this is death. And I literally knew something was wrong. And I didn't have health insurance. And so I ended up going to the hospital. Basically, I remember them shooting me with morphine and counting down, from 10 or whatever. And literally, it was like hot fire in my body. And next thing I know, I woke up 7 weeks later in the hospital.
Seven fucking weeks.
shit.
Yeah, they put me in a medically induced
It's like
coma.
some Buck Rogers shit.
Yeah, right. So yeah, like craziest thing, they told me that I had severe malrotation. So basically, like my stomach, my kidneys, my intestine, my bladder, nothing's in the right spot. So literally, everything sort of shifts in me, like
Well, that's
constantly.
that might be an advantage if you were like
If somebody shot you or whatever.
well, or
Exactly.
if you were like a knife fighter, be like not wrong
Missed it.
spot.
Yeah, exactly. You
Missed
got
it again.
You got nothing, son. You got nothing. But no, the funny thing is okay, I hated roller coasters and like any up and down rides ever since I was a kid. And I always thought, like, how do you guys enjoy this? Because I kept feeling like I was going to vomit, right? Well, it turns out my stomach just would move up and down inside of me, which was like awful. And so I just kept thinking back to all the times my dad would mock me. Like,
So
as a
when
kid,
people
like,
say that, people say your heart's in your throat, your heart might actually
exactly, like everything was up. So basically, everything from like the solar plexus down is nothing's in the right spot.
be
So
crazy.
yeah, crazy, right? The only problem is since I was 26 and I didn't have health insurance and I made too much money, I had to pay out of pocket. And
Well, that had to be cheap though. It was only 7 weeks of an induced coma.
yeah, coupled with 3 life-saving surgeries. Yeah, it was. Yeah, let's say I was in debt for 14 years.
that must have
busting
been
my butt.
hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, exactly. Hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of dollars. You would be correct. So part of the reason why I had no objection to going to Europe was because I couldn't get health coverage here. Like I couldn't get insurance.
Oh,
Right.
And I'm at high risk for a whole bunch of different things. So when people are like, well, why would you, work out of there? Well, the great thing is if my stomach ruptured in England, I'm getting fixed.
Right.
I didn't need to be a citizen. That was built into the system.
I know it's
if
crazy.
something happens now, you're like, load up the car. I got to get to Canada.
Exactly. I know for a fact that if I can get across the border, this will be very, very cheap. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that was actually the main reason why I left was because I needed health coverage. And so once I found out that there was a company in the States that did not consider what I had a pre-existing condition, I was able to come back.
But
I had to get employment through a company that had that particular insurer.
Jesus.
So
I watched a YouTube
It would
video,
be-
and this kid was talking about he'd had some kind of injury. He broke his foot when he was like spending the summer in Europe with his family. There was like a wedding and stuff like that he went to. So he'd broken his foot and he had to go to the doctor a couple of times. And he's telling the story about like the ridiculous little copay that he paid and stuff like that. And he's like trying to get, like, he keeps laughing and shit about, you know, and because he was like, his whole thing was he was comparing, you know, like their system with our system and shit, you know, like, and, you know, and laughing about, like I said, laughing about that ridiculous little copay and stuff, you know, like he goes in and gets worked on and shit. And then when he leaves, like, they're like, well, it's going to be like $50. And he's like, you know, and I'm just like, God damn, you know, it just, and then when people talk about, oh, like I got a friend's cousin's roommate's uncle's sister that she has a friend that lives in Canada, and he said this about the healthcare system. And then he actually talked, you know, but then he talked to people from Canada. They're like, "Are you fucking kidding?"
No.
You know?
Like I've told the story over and over again, but oh shit, what's his name? Dixon. Can't remember his first name though, but the fighter, and he was from Canada, super tough.
Oh,
dude.
yeah.
and he broke his hand horrible one night in a fight, and we're in the bar afterward, and his hand's all nasty, swelled up and shit. And I had like something knee an injury or whatever, and I had some fucking 800 milligram ibuprofens, and I was like, dude, do you want one of my ibuprofens? He goes, I don't usually take drugs off of people from at a bar, but yes. And then
it's a good rule of thumb.
I'm like, do you want to go to the doctor or something? He goes, I'm going back to Canada.
He is making the right choice.
Yeah, I mean, it is just a broken hand, but if he ended up going in here, he would, you know, well, first of all, they would only see him in an ER. So then he's going to be in an ER, and he's crazy.
And then you know, like then you've got a lot of people, you know, even though if the media is to be believed, we've turned the corner, and most people are in favor of, you know, something along the lines of a single payer healthcare or expanded Medicare or whatever. But you still see these people, and a lot of people, railing against a system like that because, you know, they've entered into this this abusive, you know, they've got this mindset like no, he promised he won't hit me again, you know, like that fucking
it drives me crazy, and I feel like it's the most there is no good logical the only people who I think could be in favor of not having some kind of universal health care are the people
who will be disenfranchised and unemployed, or
that work in the insurance industry.
Yeah, that's legitimately the only people that would suffer.
That's a huge, powerful lobby.
Oh yeah,
and you know, so I don't know. Speaking of that, did you guys hear Andrew Yang is running for mayor of New York?
Yeah, he's doing well too.
That's
Pulling
great.
up.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I just heard that this morning. Oh yeah, I was gonna say this too. I've decided that I'm no longer gonna say listen to a podcast. It doesn't make me. I'm just gonna say I read about it. So that's code now.
Sure.
Okay.
There you go.
So I was reading about it, and this morning, and
I was reading an Audible, and
well, I actually say I read that book on Audible, but I probably say, well, I was listening to this podcast 40 times a week, you know, whenever I'm talking about it. Well, I was listening to this podcast the other day. So I'm just going to say, well, I was reading about it. Like, it's better. Anyway, but yeah, Andrew Yang is running for mayor of New York, and I think that's fucking great. But he was talking about they might try to do some kind of UBI experiment in New York. Yeah, I think that'd be pretty interesting. I think that, I really like that dude.
yeah, no, I love UBI as a concept. Like, I mean, I'm not a trained economist, but yet I became so specialized in doing it that I feel very comfortable.
What's UBI?
Universal basic income.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
I just shamed you.
Right? Oh, I was asking for all the people out there.
That works.
No, but I have I didn't really know that that the universal basic income was gaining any, like I've seen it mentioned, but I didn't know it was an idea that was actually gaining
gained
any
a
traction.
shit pile of traction after, as soon as COVID hit.
Yeah.
Yep, because basically Andrew Yang's like candidacy was pretty much dismissed. And I didn't really know that much about him. Actually, it was Freakonomics. That's how I fucking found out about him. And it was like a earlier episode because I was going back through their catalog. And then I was like, how come I didn't know about this fucking guy because I wasn't paying attention. But, I mean, he had no chance anyway.
No.
But super smart, whatever. But his platform was basically UBI, that we need basic. And I was like, it's in the Expanse, so we got it.
That's also
you
true.
got to have it.
What's weird about that? Even when I hear about universal basic income, things pop into my head that are from my like upbringing. You know, like something about that makes me like. Makes me suspicious, you know, like, is that, when everybody's just going to lay around and do drugs all the time, you know, like, or maybe I just have an inner redneck. But, not in that Beatty way. Ned Beatty. He was the guy that got the squeal like a pig guy in Deliverance.
Oh, Jesus.
That was a fucking, that was an outdated, really fucking, that was just a bad reference.
Well, I'm
anything with Burt Reynolds topless shooting a bow and arrow, though, is something that we have to bring up at least once every day. That's just the thing.
I'm like Archer in my love for Burt Reynolds. But,
and we're going to have a 2-part episode, ladies and gentlemen. Spitballing coming up.
But so, like, when I think about universal basic income, like, it's going to be weird for a lot of people, because if it's fucking weird for my, like, dumb lefty ass, I think a lot of people are going to struggle with that idea. Well, why should they get to, you know,
again, though,
it's the worst part of us, you know, it's the worst part of us that
oddly enough, it's a fiscally conservative.
Yeah, it's a fiscally conservative.
I have no doubt. Well,
policy.
just, you know, same thing with like healthcare and shit like that. Well, it shouldn't be a right. Why shouldn't it be a right? You know,
exactly.
I mean,
it's a right in a lot of countries. It's just not one here.
I've got an AR. Apparently, I have a right to that. You know,
exactly.
like,
Right. Yeah. That doesn't. Yeah.
Exactly. But no, I mean, I've often found, like, when you really break down terms like liberal and conservative, at the end of the day, what used to pass as economic conservative no longer does.
Oh my God.
I mean, realistically, conservative programs and the things that they rally against, because the conservatives no longer pitch anything, and they haven't really since the mid-90s. They don't have any policy programs. They don't have any initiatives. They just run on being against whatever the Democrats are doing and pitching. Basically, that's kind of what it's boiled down to. The problem is that when we do find things that are economically conservative and fiscally conservative, the problem is then they shift it to a social thing. And so they will argue the social ramifications. This is un-American. Why shouldn't you be forced to pay profit for health care? You know what I mean? And that's kind of the angle that they have to take, you know, because there is no moral angle that they can take against it. There's no, you know.
And then they hide behind shit like, you know, issues that shouldn't really be issues, you know, like Roe versus Wade and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like all these things, you know, fuck.
Well, I mean, that's fine, though. I mean, that's fine. If you want to be a pro-life, you want to be whatever, that's fine. But what bugs me is when somebody says, yes,
pro-life is a horrible term, too.
Exactly.
I'm conservative. Yeah, the pro-life right until the time the fucking kid is born.
Exactly. And then they are nothing but anger and vitriol for the child.
All about it from conception to birth.
Exactly. They're literally forced birth. There's no such thing as pro-life. It's forced birth. That's what they care about.
I got angry and sidetracked for a second there. What I was saying is that what pisses me off, though, is when somebody claims that they are conservative, and then they are presented with they're fiscally conservative. They say they're fiscally conservative, and then they're presented with a fiscally conservative model, like universal health
payer
coverage,
or whatever, yeah.
single payer, and which would increase outcomes, would decrease the amount of money that we pay in healthcare, and would essentially save the GDP, how many ever, whatever it was, 14 million or trillion, fucking who knows, I can't remember. billion, million, trillion. It's one of those.
$14, whatever. Doesn't
14, yeah, it's all the same to me.
Exactly. I don't even look at it. Just sign the check. That's fine.
But
That's why I have to be 100 air.
and then they're like, no, because I was reading the other day, and
I do like this change.
it was this on Joe Rogan. I was reading Joe Rogan the other day, and and it was this fiscal conservative, and he's explaining what fiscal conservatism is, and then he was like, yes, obviously we need universal health care, like, but without a doubt. He's like, but I also think so he was just laying it out, and it was like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's a conservative. I got that. I get that.
Yeah.
I can grok that.
So that's why every once in a while I'm like, I'll say like, but I'm more conservative.
Did
than
you know
are,
Heinlein
apparently,
was like deep? Heinlein, Stranger in a Strange Land. Did you know that was all interconnected with fucking Charles Manson and everything?
Huh? What?
Yeah. So apparently, I know, fucking tangent.
UBI to Marilyn or Charlie Manson.
Yeah. So
He's Charles Manson, not a conservative.
Exactly.
probably not. Though he was a racist.
He was a big time racist. So maybe
Polygamy, though, you got that
yeah.
going for you.
It's all over the place. I don't know. I read this crazy book about Manson, but apparently Stranger in a Strange Land was like, he carried it around with him all the time and read it all the time and all that kind of shit. And like, I'd spent a really long time since I've read that book, but there was kind of a communal, like, I don't know, like family in there. And that was why he called the people that he was with the family and all that. So I was like, wow, that's crazy. I hope that doesn't tarnish, because I like the word grok.
See, obviously I'm not a Trump supporter. Let's just get that out there.
What?
Yeah, I know. Surprise, surprise. Yeah. Somebody that identified as a socialist for 20 years is not a fan of Trump. But no, I always loved the word Trump. Trumping something is such a great word, and we've lost
But now
the
it
ability
means to
use
just
that.
like accidentally shit yourself or something.
Pretty much. Pretty much. Yeah, I mean, I loved using Trump, and now I found like in the past 3 years I can't use it.
If you say, I'm going to play my Trump card, which means I'm going to be a fucking idiot.
Exactly.
Speaking of Trump, have you guys been following the what's it called, impeachment?
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely.
Not really. I'm not. I mean, yeah, sure. I'll argue about it on Facebook, but that doesn't mean I know anything about it.
I was reading the other day.
Should be their slogan.
So in
I fart in the face of people less informed than me, and then I read shit if I absolutely have to. It's a last resort.
right.
I'll get sources if I feel like I need them.
I hope I'm right about this because I just said it.
So what's that guy's name? Raskin. He's the fucking
lead prosecutor for the Democrats.
That's not what they call it, prosecutor.
Well, it's the lead person of the investigative committee. Yeah.
Yeah, a different name. But I loved one of the things that he said. He was talking about like the defense that Trump is trying to use is that, that it's a First Amendment issue. He can say whatever he wants because it's a fucking free country. And, like, whatever it was, Oliver Wendell Holmes, like, said that, you like free speech, ends, you can't, shout fire in a crowded theater. Yeah. And he said, actually, I wrote the quote down because I thought it was pretty fucking good.
Wow, prep.
Yeah. He said, he basically referenced that Holmes thing about shouting fire in a crowded theater, and then he said, this is worse than that. This is more like the town fire chief who's paid to put out fires sends a mob not to yell fire in a crowded theater, but to actually set the theater on fire. And I was like, that's pretty badass. That's pretty badass. But I hate on Facebook, you see Tom Fanjoy. Is that his name? Fanjoy?
Yeah.
Like he made some argument the other day about, how is this any different than the BLA protests in the whatever.
In all the ways. All the fucking ways.
Now, it is true that during the Black Lives Matter protests, like there was violence and
some riots broke out.
Riots broke out. Absolutely happened. But the difference is that like Barack Obama wasn't like leading them and telling them to do it.
Hadn't been working on them for fucking not just I mean like years before, but specifically the weeks and weeks leading up to, getting them fucking riled up, talking directly to them in speeches, it's fucking apples and oranges,
right.
Exactly.
Unless of course you can't discern between apples and oranges, and your feelings because your guy lost are telling you that you don't need to think about this, just go on and say it, like it's a fucking emotional response.
It's just a bummer that it's probably not going to happen.
Oh, not a fucking chance.
It's definitely not going to happen.
Actually, I don't know.
Pissing into the wind.
I don't know if it's not going to happen. In all likelihood, it's not going to happen. But they need.
But that's
17,
not because he's not guilty.
Yeah.
Well, they need 17.
It's because they are corrupt.
17 Republicans to sign on.
And they didn't even get 17 Republicans to vote to hold the trial, to believe that they could hold the trial.
But they got 5.
Yes.
And they've never has somebody from the party of the impeached voted to impeach.
Correct.
This time, 5 people from the party of the impeached voted to impeach. That's historical.
I got to see some people on Facebook turning on Magic Underwear guy, Mitt Romney.
Yeah, Mitt Romney.
I got to see them. What the shit they say about him.
It's great that he's become Magic Underwear guy.
They fucking hate him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you fucking hate integrity is what you hate, you fucking idiot. Like, it's like you hate Mitt Romney for being the guy that stands up and says, like, in the face of all that shit, like, it's almost heroic. Like, I'm not a fucking Mitt Romney fan.
I am.
But I respect, him taking a fucking stand and being like the voice of reason and integrity.
I respect the hell out of Mitt Romney, and that's coming from somebody that disagrees with about 90% of his viewpoint.
Exactly.
I miss that.
The thing is that like, why can't you disagree with 90% of somebody's viewpoints and still respect them?
Because people have lost their damn minds.
Right.
See,
But
they
you
agree with
used to
90% of his
be
viewpoints, but they can't get behind this because they're small.
They
and
agree
petty
with
and
them,
dumb.
but yes. All I'm saying is that it's not impossible that 17 Republicans could come over. They already got 5. Mitch McConnell said he would
Was undecided.
undecided or something like that. And if Mitch
McConnell is not fucking undecided about shit.
No.
but
Mitch McConnell
I
is
actually
undecided
think he-
only because he doesn't know where the political wind blows, and
Right.
he was waiting to see closer to and get popularity votes on it. I realistically think that really smart Republicans, and this goes back into like the whole campaign management stuff, really smart Republican politicians are very much trying to avoid taking any stance right now because they don't know, one, where people are going to stand next week, and more importantly, 2 years from now and 4 years from now. So you're not seeing them take any really strong stance on Trump specifically. They will take strong stances on other things, however, surrounding it. So you'll talk about, oh, it's unconstitutional. The hell it is. The Senate actually has impeached people afterwards previously.
Yeah, there's precedent.
Not a president, but we've actually impeached official officers in this country after they were removed from office.
I found that the whole language in the Constitution where it says to remove a person from office and forbid them from taking future office. Well, man, that has to happen at the exact same time. It's like, how would anybody read that? Like, and then all the constitutional scholars are like,
Yeah.
what are you, fucking retarded?
Yeah, it doesn't matter, liberal or conservative. If you look at the constitutional scholars, they all agree.
Right.
It's
So
just somehow
a constitutional
yeah.
scholar is kind of like an economist.
Yeah.
They like aren't looking at it from a lens. They're just looking at it from the Constitution. They're looking at it in the Constitution.
Absolutely.
Again, when we're talking about constitutional scholars, we're not talking about the guys that I went to high school with.
I've read it. I know what it
Well,
says.
I don't know, man. Mike Starr is probably as close to guy as I know.
And the
Mike
Constitution
Starr.
literalist. He fucking does
There's
love
a
him
guy-
some Constitution.
That's a
Oh.
guy who I disagree with about 90% of his viewpoints,
Yeah.
and yet really like the guy and can have an interesting conversation with him.
Here's the thing
He's
about
kind of crazy as a shithouse rat, but I still love him.
Yeah.
like okay,
So that's fair.
Michael Starr. I know you guys had him on.
Yeah, I actually grew up with him as well. So
Oh,
I've
right
known
on.
him my whole
Right on.
life.
I met
You
Mike introduced me to Matt when we were teenagers.
Oh, get out. See, now here's the thing. I've got no issues with him as a person because I don't know him. I've never
Yeah.
met him. I don't know anything about him. I only know what he's said on Facebook. And I decided there's no way in hell that person should ever hold elective office. I made that decision, and I've adamantly decided to seek out everything that he wrote.
He has come to feel the same way.
Yes.
I don't know that I disagree with you.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I enjoy him, but he's really smart. I've always
yeah.
come across that on Facebook. But
Charismatic.
No, absolutely. I would actually probably have a great time talking with him.
I think
I guarantee you would.
Yeah, but politically, I'm at polar opposites from him.
Yeah.
So
In fact, a lot of times I'm like, "Holy shit, that's super crazy." But then I'm talking. So like, if I went by, he's disappeared from Facebook, which is a bummer. 'Cause
Who?
Mike.
I didn't. I don't pay attention.
So like, I look at the stuff that like he posts, and then I look at our conversations, and I'm like, that guy I think is batshit crazy and terrifying. I'm like, this guy. This is my fucking awesome friend over
when
here.
He
Absolutely.
explained to us about the
that
red flag laws. Or
the
red flag laws surrounding
and like
Second
the
Amendment issues.
no knock warrants, all
really,
that shit. Yeah.
that's not what I thought about it at all. So yeah, I think I'm not sure that he should have office either, but
Yeah, but I mean, I just find
but
anybody
libertarians
that says,
are weird. But I feel like that's adjacent. So like
I had a go ahead.
I just don't like. I think like Mike's over here, compared to the polar opposite of like I guess where my political beliefs are. Like he's like often.
But he's like where
He's
we
often-
find a lot of common ground and stuff like that. I think Mike is kind of off. Like, well, like we've got a little like there's these Republicans in their little village over here, and there's us in our little village over here.
'Cause he
And
fucking-
Mike is up on a fucking mountain somewhere all by himself.
He hates Trump just as much as we do.
Oh yes.
yeah, well, libertarians aren't liberal or conservative. Most people don't realize
Right.
that.
They're-
And, it's a different
And
thing.
he's
So if
not
you look
even
at it
a
as like
libertarian. He's a
No,
he
he's
calls
way-
himself a constitutional
Literalist. He's definitely not smug enough to be a libertarian.
Yeah.
I had a revelation about that just yesterday. Because I was thinking about how like fucking infuriating it is. Because you watch libertarians like the two-party system is just so and I'm like, shut up, you fucking fence sitter, go fuck yourself. Like I just don't like the smugness.
yeah.
And
The two-party system is fucked up.
yeah, we all know
fully
this.
agree
And
with that.
you were talking back in like Ralph Nader. You worked on in
I believe in third
and
parties.
Totally, like Ralph Nader, who I completely supported, like loved that campaign. I truly didn't see a difference between Al Gore or George Bush. I thought they were essentially two of the same party, and then fucking George Bush got elected. And not a and
then you're like, oh
and
shit,
I'm like,
Al Gore would have been so different.
so much better. I've never voted third party since then.
Well, here's the thing.
Because
It's
we
always
don't
large
have
picture.
runoff elections.
Yeah, well, we need it.
So Andrew Yang is running for mayor in New York, and that was exactly what he said. He said the one most significant change that we can make is runoff elections.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Agreed.
Or ranked choice voting
So
or whatever.
the
you want.
smugness about the whole like, like it's the smugness that fucking gets me. Like when I'm talking to, it escapes me the word. We were just talking about them.
Libertarians.
Libertarians, yes. God damn it. So like this, I know so many like I'm so much smarter than you guys because I'm fucking fence sitting and just sniping from over here and blah blah blah, and it just drives me fucking crazy. Then I thought about how I feel when I listen to people like as a agnostic or atheist or whatever the fuck I am, how I feel about people like with religious arguments and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, oops. Like, because I feel that fucking smug, like, oh, you guys are fucking, like that. It's like the same fucking thing, almost.
Almost, yeah.
And I'm like, well, maybe I should be less harsh towards libertarians because I'm a smug fuck too occasionally.
Weirdly enough, I actually define myself as a libertarian.
Really?
Yeah, but I mean, I've always said when I came to the DFL and, became the chair in Cass County and all that jazz, I came to it from the left socially. And economically, I consider myself fiscally conservative, but I'm socially insanely liberal.
That's exactly what I say all the time.
And realistically, most of that falls within a libertarian construct.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
See, people are always telling me that I'm a libertarian, and I'm like, no, I'm not.
Yeah, but libertarian. Some people who identify. Okay, there's a huge difference between being a libertarian and people who identify as libertarians.
oh God, yes,
They're fucking pretentious little cunts.
Oh, yeah.
Like that. You can't be that. But like what if you actually like were to break down what your political beliefs are, that's because I would say I'm exactly the same way. I'm completely socially liberal. Like I believe that you should have the right to do with your body whatever you wish.
Yeah.
That like blah 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 blah, and yet like I feel like I'm fiscally conservative in the sense that I think, but then going back to it. It's got to be reasonable fiscally conservative because it's reasonable that we have universal health care. That's a fiscally conservative policy. So
yeah, and I think when you break down people that self-identify as a libertarian aren't capable of identifying.
Mostly they're just gun nuts.
Yeah, at the end of the day, they're
too.
hardcore Second Amendment folk, or they are people that do not differentiate between either left or right socially. They don't have a concept of a social construct whatsoever, and they remove themselves from that. So you have people that kind of become the strict constitutionalists.
Mm-hmm.
Also, people that terrify me because if you're in a position of power, the Constitution doesn't come into play unless you're literally holding federal office. So at the end of the day, you're already kind of in your box, so deal with it. You know what I mean? So that's a whole other.
And the Constitution is a living document.
Exactly,
So
and
it's supposed to be able to change.
yeah, and people talk about strict constructionalism versus amendable, and there's a huge debate with that. And the way I look at it is that they created it initially with 10 amendments. They knew from the beginning that they didn't get it right and had to put in 10 things to get enough states to agree to it. We recognize that we can change the Constitution. However, the trade-off is we've made it so incredibly difficult to do so now, even though we have more tools and more power than we've ever had to be able to.
Because it's like a fucking religious canon for these people now.
Oh, yeah.
Which kind of freaks me out, like it's like some kind of fucking religious idol or something. And I'm like, no, it's just like for governing and occasionally a couple 100 years after the fact, you might need to make a change here and there, which sounds reasonable to me, but that's a very offensive idea to some people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, but
absolutely.
I mean, do those people think that like we shouldn't have like women's suffrage? Women's suffrage?
Well, I mean, just like look at the Second Amendment.
Exactly.
Fuck,
man. Like I don't hate to get into it, but man, the Second Amendment is the most confusingly written like verbiage.
Well, there's just better arguments
for like right, but I mean,
out there
it
for gun control
really doesn't make sense. Like if you read it, the Second Amendment, I can't quote it, But it's
In regards to a well-regulated militia, the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
crazy, right? What the fuck does that mean?
Here's what Thomas Paine would tell you it meant, and here's what Benjamin Franklin would tell you it meant.
Exactly. Even that back in the day, they didn't agree.
Oh no, they absolutely agreed as to what it meant. We just don't have it applying anymore. The concept of the militia was that we, as citizen militia, that we would keep our own arms. So if we ever got called to arms again, if we ever needed to, we would have the arms to go out and do it. Now here's where it gets interesting. When you talk to strict constitutionalists, people would say, whatever's in the Constitution goes. And so then you're like, okay, define arms. And they're like, well, guns. Okay, but do we have nuclear arms treaties? Well, yeah. Do you believe that everybody should be able to own a nuclear weapon? Well, God, no. That's crazy. Nobody should have a nuke. Well,
Especially not Donald Trump.
exactly. But the Constitution says very clearly you have the right to keep and bear arms. So you've already accepted some regulation on that. We've already said, guess what? You can't have a howitzer. We've already limited the scope of what it says. And we all kind of recognize, no matter how much of a gun nut you are, and I have a gun, I don't hide that, but I wouldn't call myself a gun nut. But on the same token, all of us can go, yeah, you know what? Probably shouldn't be having a howitzer. I know I would be stupid with it, so
My neighbors would hate it.
exactly. So we've already accepted some sort of restrictions on what the Constitution says. Therefore, we've all committed that. If we agree with that, or we need to go and change the Second Amendment, and then you ask them what they want to do. Because at that point, you can say, well, the right to keep and bear arms, red flag laws, things like red flag laws. I can understand where somebody that is a hardcore Second Amendment person wants to have, why should the government be able to take my guns prematurely? Why should they be able to say no? And I would say, well, realistically, we already say no to felons. However, all your rights are restored once you are a free person.
Oh, it depends on the state, but yeah.
Yeah, but realistically speaking, we've already accepted limitations on people owning guns. We also have issues for the mentally ill owning guns. We have that already in place. So we've accepted these restrictions. So the trade-off is how far are we willing to go? And I've always said, when it comes to guns, I've got no issues with guns. I'm totally okay with it. My thing is trigger locks. There's nothing in the Constitution that says that the government can't require a trigger lock. There's absolutely nothing. You have the right to keep and bear arms. We're going to tell you how you keep those arms. That's totally legit. There's nothing in it.
And stuff like trigger locks, like that idea, like as a gun owner and stuff, as a firearms enthusiast, why would that bother me? Because of the slippery slope, fucking grow up. What's wrong with trigger locks? I would be fucking, you get them now, like with every fucking gun you buy, you get goddamn trigger locks.
And they did that intentionally to, how do I want to put this? To basically trump the argument. And I hate the fact that I have to use the word Trump. But yeah, they basically tried to preemptively circumvent the argument. Hey, look, we're already providing these things, which is great. So that way we don't try to require them. The trade-off is that we don't have the same punishments for if you have a 45 and it gets stolen, used and commissioned in a crime, you don't get punished for it. However, we can say, well, if we required trigger locks, they must have busted the lock to do it. They may have stolen your gun, but we know they must have busted the lock. But if we find out that you didn't use locks, well, okay, now there's some responsibility there that you have to bear. Because guess what? Your guns weren't kept in a safe, but we do require a trigger lock. But if we find out that you don't have the lock, now you bear some responsibility for it because your incompetence led to somebody else doing it. Because we have this fear of like cancel culture. It's a responsibility culture. Take ownership for your shit. Handle it. You know
Consequence culture.
Consequence culture. Absolutely. And I hate the term cancel culture because it basically says, oh, well, I should be able to do what I want without any responsibility.
I mean, we all see stuff from time to time that we're like, ooh.
Yeah, exactly.
You really, like, Al Franken, a good example. Shit where I'm like, oof, really? Like, damn, That being said, most of those, most of the time they get it right, I feel like.
I don't know about the Gina Carano thing.
You know what?
So
She was a QAnon follower, goddamn
if you
Trumpy.
don't, hey,
like,
I'm not
you
saying
know.
I agree with her.
No, but
I'm just saying I'm not sure
that she should have been fired.
that she
for
should have
that?
gotten fired. Do you know what we're talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah, I'm with you.
Do you watch The Mandalorian?
I don't actually.
That's fucking
I'm
great.
not sure about that either. Obviously, she's fucking crazy as shit.
I
but
went through the work. I read the tweets. They weren't that bad. I mean, the most offensive one I think was Bebop.
the
Boop.
Nazi one.
No.
Oh,
The fucking Nazi one wasn't even offensive. No, Bebop Boop. She changed her personal pronouns to Bebop Boop. I think that's fucking funny. All right.
Yeah, that is funny. I'll give her that. That's funny.
She didn't realize that she said she didn't realize that she was being offensive. She could pick whatever pronoun she wanted. She thought Bebop Boop was funny. I'm not saying Gina Carano's is smart.
I
but
get
I'm
that.
saying the fucking Nazi one was nothing. It was
well, comparing,
it's not comparing. What what it said essentially was that
Republicans in Hollywood
There
are
was
like
no-
Jews in Nazi Germany. Wasn't that the deal?
no. That's what
All right,
bugs
I'm
me.
Googling it. Let's see what we actually have here.
Actually, it was a pain in the ass to find. The problem is that all of these articles say essentially that they say Gina Carano said that Hollywood is just like nuts, whatever. But that's not what she said. It's like a meme that she posted on her Twitter or whatever it was, and it said essentially that in Nazi Germany or in Germany and whatever year, Jews weren't killed by Nazis. They were killed.
I thought that was a separate one.
Well, maybe there's more than one. There was a pile of them, but she said they were killed by neighbors.
Neighbors,
they were
kids in
killed
the
by
street,
friends
stuff like
and
that.
kids in the street, and eventually to be killed. And I was like, I don't disagree with anything in that meme. Like what she's saying is that, or in that tweet or whatever. What she's saying is
That they turned people against the Jews.
That it's we turning on each other is what eventually creates the environment that makes it possible.
Can I read it from a different perspective?
Yeah.
To me, what you're saying is totally dismisses the responsibility and culpability of the Nazi Party. You're removing everything from Mein Kampf all the way through. You basically are saying that the system isn't at fault at all. It's your fault for being a sucker of the system.
Actually, Gina Carano was saying that.
Yeah. But that's how I would read it if I was.
That just means she's not that smart. But I didn't feel like any of the tweets or whatever that she said were all that like ridiculously offensive.
Well, see, I like as far as like the losing her job thing.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
like, they
she
can
could be
fire her
like,
from
I don't
there.
care if she's a fucking neo-Nazi,
But-
like whatever. And I'm not saying she is, of course. I'm just saying like whatever views that she holds, she's a fucking actress, like
Right.
now.
But man,
Is it heavy-handed? Yes. Are
I
they
don't
within
even
their
ca-
rights? Sure.
Of course they're within their rights.
Yeah.
And I don't even care that she got fired. What bugs me is that she's getting canceled, not getting fired. She got fired off Disney. Who gives a shit, right? They didn't want to take the fight. But like I see it all over the place. They're like, this fucking bitch, she should be like, fucking burned in the street and blah 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 blah. I'm like, I think she just kind of is dumb. I mean, she's just kind of dumb. I don't think
Yeah.
it means she's like.
Yeah. But I mean,
I don't think she was
that's
being
the same thing with
particularly
a lot
evil.
Of our, that's the same thing with like a lot of our conservative friends and stuff. Like, would you hate them? Are they a terrible person? Meh, but they're just a little, maybe they're ignorant. I don't know. I'm always trying to figure out what the fuck makes a person come down on like a side that makes no fucking sense. And but then you get into, well, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Yeah, but when your opinion flies in the face of fucking reality and fact checked, and the term fact check has become a fucking dirty word on social media.
Yeah.
Like, okay, if you use fact check like a dirty word, you're probably a fucking imbecile,
You know what's funny though is that I was reading today, and they were talking about how Trump has been really chill during this whole like impeachment thing. Do you know why? Because he can't get on Twitter, and so like he himself has been like a much better, a much nicer person now that he's not engaging in the fucking dumpster fire that Twitter is. And
He might have won that election if he would have fucking got rid of his Twitter account a long time ago.
No, you want my honest opinion? Trump would have won if he kept his mouth shut for the last year. If he literally just shut up and
that would have been the most interesting campaign ever, because it would have been two people that didn't talk.
yeah,
Because
exactly.
that Biden's entire strategy was just like,
Well,
Well,
Trump
when you're
was
up
digging
against
his own
Trump,
hole.
yeah.
like
You can just
get out
watch.
of his way. You know what I mean? If I was running Joe's campaign, I would have told him the exact
that's
same
what
thing.
It's fucking
Like,
straight
dude,
up
you
rope a
just-
dope politics.
Dude,
You're
just
like,
don't
can't
say a
rope-a-dope
word.
politics.
Don't say a word.
who's that Nira Tanden?
Okay, actually, you probably know a lot more about her than I do.
Near a tandon.
Yeah.
Feed me something so I can remember what's going on here.
Okay. So she is. She got picked for to head up. Fuck, I don't know the name of the office.
Something in the Biden.
Something economics.
Cabinet.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah, hardcore centerist.
so she has like was the head of that think tank. Kind of sold herself as progressive. But she said a lot of hateful shit. She said a lot of hateful shit about progressives. She's said a lot of hateful shit about Republicans. And I mean, like, out of line, like ridiculous, like shit like Trump would say.
Yeah.
But just awful shit. And basically she's in the pocket. She's corrupt as fuck. She's been in the pocket of fucking big money like all along. And honestly, like, even if you just watch like those, like the confirmation hearings, you can see it.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
like you can see she looks like a raging, awful fucking human being, and like you
They're
look at her,
called cunts,
right? Watch her answer the questions and stuff. Actually, that reminds me that fucking the thing that really bothers me the most about the whole Gina Carano thing is it just reinforces what I already know about what I find attractive. The fact that like
Here's
my
a show.
attraction to them is the best way known to man to gauge who is fucking crazy and evil. It offends me mostly because it makes me not trust my sweet, sweet wife. I mean, I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like she's obviously playing the long game because it's been years and she's still sweet and wonderful. But I know that I am attracted to horrible, horrible, awful, crazy, right wing. Like the
sure
other
she's
day
killing
when
puppies.
I made in that message. Did you read that? I made that long list. I was like, oh, Sarah Palin.
Oh my
I
God.
started going down that list, and I'm like,
No.
right off the top of my head, I'm like, well, there's 10. like 10 crazy Republican chicks that I'm like, what's up?
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I'm scared. The worst thing about that is I'm scared of my own wife.
Yeah,
But
as
so
you
yeah.
should be.
Yeah, right.
I think that's just general solid life advice for anybody. I think. I love my wife, but I do fear that I fall asleep before her. Yeah.
So
near it-
Bernie was fucking raking that chick over the coals. Okay, it's not. We say raking over the coals. It's Bernie.
Yeah.
Even when he's being tough with people, he's still pretty fucking nice.
Yeah.
well,
And
he does yell a lot.
but his yelling sounds fun and fucking hilarious. But yeah, so that lady's fucking awful, and everybody knows it. But there she is. That's why I fucking posted that. I'm like, that's why we progressives are so lukewarm on Biden, because he's fucking nobody's first choice. He's probably not Mrs. Biden's fucking first choice, for all we know. I just like this is
His
more of
dog
the
died.
same. Fucking just.
I'll take it.
And it's disappointing. Yes, it's
that
way
was
better
my
than Trump.
point. That was my point
Yeah.
that I want to say about it.
Yeah.
Like when I saw your post, I was like, I don't fucking care. I don't fucking care. He could be fucking appointing Lenny and Squiggy. I mean, I literally
Everything he does is an improvement.
Don't-
Every fucking thing.
Oh,
he does
yeah.
is an improvement.
fucking care.
Yeah.
His job is to not be Trump for 4 years. That's all it is. He doesn't have to do anything else. I mean, it'd be nice if he actually got the vaccine out. And it seems like he's doing,
Yeah.
a fairly good job.
Yeah.
One thing that I had was reading about was that he was very critical of Trump ruling by executive order. And then in his first, few days, he, 70 executive orders or some fucking crazy shit like that. And it's like people were criticizing him of that. It's like they were just undoing all of Trump. They were. It was you. That's how you undo an executive order is by making an executive order.
Yeah.
One thing though is that the fucking pipeline, the XL.
Yeah.
The XL
Keystone XL.
Keystone XL pipeline. I feel like that is such a fucking red herring. Is that the right thing?
I could see that.
Is that the right word? Like it meaning
the right fallacy.
It means it's just bullshit.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter. Like Trump.
Look at all those temporary jobs he just caused us.
Yeah.
And just for clean drinking water?
There weren't
what a
any,
fucking asshole.
There weren't any temporary jobs, though. Like, Trump, first day in office, fucking green-lighted the XL pipeline.
That had been shot down for fucking years before that.
How much of the XL pipeline got put in during Trump's administration? Zero. Because it's been locked up in legal battles ever since. And it's never not going to be locked up in legal battles. So it's like...
We say that, but then we said that about line 3, and now they're putting in line 3 literally a mile from my house.
Totally in support of them.
Right through my fucking backyard. Because, you live like a couple of miles from where I grew up.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's right through like... And here's the thing. Pipelines... leak. Like it's they're always fucking environmental disasters and shit. And people are like, oh no, they're so good now. No, they're fucking not. And the company that's fucking putting that one through is responsible for the fucking biggest inland fucking oil spill in fucking like in our history. That was the one in Michigan.
Right.
The I can't even fucking.
Is that line 5? No, I can't remember.
God damn it. Anyway, it's in Michigan. And they're still fucking cleaning it up. That was a long time ago. That was 10 years ago. Yep. Still cleaning it up. Fucking infuriating.
The last line that we actually put in the U.S., the last pipeline that we put in was completed, I want to say, about 20 months ago. It's already leaked. There you go. So even with the current technology that they're all hyping up, it's already leaked. So, yeah.
I didn't want to come across as being pro oil pipeline because I'm not.
No.
What I was saying is that like people are getting all benty about it.
Yeah.
But the point is that there were no jobs for 4 years, like the last 4 years.
No.
There were nobody's taking away jobs because there weren't any jobs because they're in a fucking lawsuit. So
these are hypothetical jobs.
They're hypothetical jobs that weren't going to be coming any time soon, no matter what he did.
But it's easy to get those people riled up.
Is it easy? Is it easy to get those people riled up?
They're already mad.
What do
you got?
All you got to do is
just fucking. All you need to do is throw something out there.
All you got to do is have a rally and tell them to charge the White House, and they're fucking in.
Yeah, but I mean, if you do that, really, isn't it just their own individual responsibility?
Yeah, it was. It's on them. I actually did want to like make not a correction, but when we did the last podcast, we talked about the 6th. And I didn't know much about it. Like, I didn't do any research beforehand. I was like, apparently some shit happened. So Kyle was kind of explaining it to me. And I made the statement that if that had been a Black Lives Matter protest and they had marched on the White House, that the result would have been much, much different. And they would have had, they would have been machine gunning them down. I needed to recant that statement. Like,
do you think they would have dropped bombs from the sky?
It's possible.
Yeah.
But the fact...
They would not have machine gunned them. It would have never come to that.
The fact of the matter is the Capitol Police that were there at the time, they were woefully outnumbered. And probably outgunned. Like, there
was a reason for that, too.
That's not my there may be a reason for that, but that wasn't their fault. They actually did a pretty good job. The
All
Capitol
things
Police
considered, yeah.
did a pretty good job.
You're outnumbered 300 to 1.
Well,
yeah,
I mean,
they did all right.
Let's face it. some of those guys really fought tooth and nail, and one of them fucking got killed doing
Right.
it. You know, so
And
you
did
can't really
see
take
the-
shit away from
Did
that.
you see the footage of the black cop that was like being chased down the hallway
Yeah.
and whatever?
Yeah.
Is that really clever about it?
Pretty
Yeah.
fucking sweet. Yeah.
Did you
So
see-
he ends up leading. He ends up like leading them out, and is I mean, it was pretty awesome.
Did you see what they just released yesterday?
No.
It was in the video that the Democrats put together. They used in actual security footage from the
yeah.
Senate. They show Mitt Romney walking away from a camera, so the camera's kind of positioned behind him, and the same officer that led those people away came running by him and yelled at Romney to turn around, and literally, 50, 60 feet away were the rioters, and he was trying to lead him out. And so Romney literally had to do a 180 and
Dude.
run down the hallway the opposite direction that he was heading.
And
because he would
Romney's one of
it.
them. They would have fucking
Oh
shot
yeah.
up.
yeah. Oh
For
yeah.
real.
That's the whole thing. Like, how crazy is it? And I mean, I definitely, I fully agree with what you're saying. They wouldn't have been shot if it was BLM. However, we do know when BLM happened, we saw the level of force that they had around the Capitol. Like, I mean, they had the stormtroopers out basically. I mean,
Right.
it was crazy, and that was all being told to stand down. That came from the Department of Defense for the National Guard, and that's all well documented that came from the White House. So we
Right.
need to
So
wonder
it's
why.
so there might be a pretty good case, and actually they didn't get into this at all into the
Impeachment.
impeachment hearing, but I'm not sure that they shouldn't have. But that is a good question. Why was there such a small Capitol force at the White House when they knew there was going to be that rally and all of that? And then why wasn't whatever? Why wasn't it the security beefed up like it was with the Black Lives Matter
Because
protest?
it's not like they didn't know about it.
Yeah.
You know?
Now maybe they just thought it was going to be no big deal because these are
I mean, half the guys that were working that day had to like decline that invitation on Facebook.
well, that's and that's true too, and that it is likely that many of the police officers were more sympathetic with the Trump rally than they would have been with a Black Lives Matter protest, and that's fine. That's fine that they. But I don't think that they weren't. I just didn't want to come across as they didn't do their job, like they did. They did as good a job as they possibly could have.
Yeah.
With the circumstances that they had.
I'm going to throw this out there. If you told me that any group, I don't care who it was, left, right, doesn't matter. If you told me that any group outnumbered at least 300 to 1 the officers at the U.S. Capitol, the fact that the officers weren't armed with guns, many of them did not have
Right,
guns.
yeah. 'Cause, yep.
Yeah, so you're basically saying you've got unarmed cops outnumbered 300 to 1. If you tell me that one person got shot by the cops and killed,
Yep.
and that's kind of where everything sort of changed, and you had cops being killed, you had a nightmare scenario. But if you told me that we only had 5 casualties from that event, I would say hats off, Capitol Police. You did an amazing job.
Yeah. I think if that scenario gets if we ran that scenario 100 times,
That's the best
this
result.
is the best result that could
Yeah.
happen. Yeah.
I don't think anybody would disagree with that.
But if you're outnumbered 300 to 1 and you have 18 shots, you're fucked. I mean, what are you going to do? Start shooting? Like,
You oil up, you put on your cape, you got your spear.
There's
This is a Sparta thing.
Yep.
Have you ever heard of? I can't remember the general's
That's what you
name.
need. Shield
QG.
wall.
You guys know QG? I want to say I've got that name right. He was Chinese general, and we're going way back into like Three Kingdoms time. So we're talking 2,500 years ago, 1,500 years ago, somewhere in there. And his town was surrounded by an overwhelming force. I want to say it was like they called it 70,000 troops surrounding this town. He
you
only
could
had 1,000
just
people.
speak with complete confidence on the numbers because we don't care.
Perfect. All right. 70,004 versus no. But I mean, just totally outnumbered. Like, I mean, we're talking like overwhelming numbers. It's not going to happen. So the cojones that this guy has, he goes up and basically it was a fortified walled city, but they didn't have anything outside of archers to be able to shoot outside, and they weren't bound to do that. So the general goes up on top of the arch that covers the doorway where the siege is happening surrounding this town. And he just tells all of his troops to sneak out the back. And so they all kind of bolt out the back. And he opens up the gates and he sits playing a flute on top of the gate to the other army, going, all right, come on in. Let's see what you got. Just basically baiting them. Like, all right, yeah, you want it? The door is open for you. Come on and get it. The other general got so nervous that he turned around and left. That takes some serious confidence. Like, yeah, I'm going to just basically outball this person.
What does he know that we don't know?
Exactly. And I keep thinking about scenarios like that surrounding the six. Like, that's literally the odds that they were facing. And the cojones of steel that it takes to do what that officer did is, man, I've been shot at. I know what that's like. Dude,
You've been shot at?
Yeah. Yeah, I have.
Wait.
So,
Well, tell me about
years ago, back when I was a journalist, I covered soccer, as a side hustle, and so I was in Africa covering the African Confederation Cup, basically like a tournament to see who kind of gets into the World Cup, if you want to kind of look at it like that. So, and soccer has always been a passion of mine, so I was like, hell yeah, this is awesome. So I was in the Republic of Chad, which had a serious civil strife, but nothing had really boiled over at that point. And I was in a small town called Ade in Chad, and I was traveling to the capital to check out a game. And terrorists came into the town and pinned down a bunch of people, and we took cover, and unfortunately a good chunk of people died, and
wow.
So
fucking soccer.
Yeah, exactly, right. Yeah, this is no, it's not the English. It's religiously based, political civil strife, but. Yeah, no, I was just going to cover soccer, and then it turned out that I was, an English speaker in the country of the Republic of Chad, so I was able to kind of cover it, but I couldn't cover it because obviously at that point I didn't have phones or anything. I was just getting shot at hiding behind a brick wall.
Fucking crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, not fun. It was an awful day, but yeah, I mean, I came out, so that's a good sign.
On a lighter note, speaking of soccer, Ted Lasso?
Ted Lasso.
I need to see it, but I don't have the Apple TV, so.
Oh, yeah, I don't have it either.
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw your post, and I was interested.
Best fucking funniest, like,
oh,
most
that's the, like, feel-good show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll probably resubscribe to it. I was kind of waiting for the next season.
Dude, it's worth it. Whatever you need to do, it's fucking worth it. I was fucking blown away by that show, because I was sure it was going to be funny. That's great. But, man, like, to make it really, like, every episode, to make it really feel good like that, genuinely feel good, and not in a fucking stupid, corny way, because it's hilarious. It's funny as shit.
Several other people chimed in and said that as well.
Really fucking, like,
well, what's
I'm
it about?
It's about an American football coach that like wins like a Division II championship or something, and he gets they hire him and his assistant to go to England and coach professional soccer. No, he doesn't know shit about soccer, but that's not really what he does. He's like the ultimate, like, players coach.
A good coach.
Okay.
You don't have to necessarily know how to.
And there was things that I didn't know about soccer too.
Oh, like, shit ton I don't know about
the
soccer.
coaches. Oh yeah, I know nothing about soccer. But one of the things that I thought was weird was they mentioned in the show how the coach doesn't really get like in like in American football, like you call in plays and stuff like that. Yeah. But apparently the coach's role is a lot different in soccer.
Absolutely.
Like you don't really get to micromanage the fucking game.
No, God, no.
Yeah, apparently, like, I don't know. It sounded like he was essentially a fucking like a cheerleader.
Yeah, I mean, most coaches like soccer coaching is like the best way I could describe it is like coaching hockey. you've got 5 guys out on the ice versus 11 guys in soccer. You choose a formation just like you would in like American football. So sometimes you'll line up in an I formation or, 3 wide or whatever. But the coach kind of sets up the formation, trying to guess what the other coach is going to do, because each one's going to have strengths and weaknesses. Are you going to be weaker on the sides or on the flanks? Are you going to be weaker in the middle? You have these decisions to make. But realistically, once the game starts, the coaches just kind of shout at their players like little instructions.
So coaches do like strategy and run practices.
Yeah, that's basically it. But realistically, it's more man management than anything else. It's more morale. It's more the tactical to an extent, sure. But at the end of the day, every tactic in football can be countered. And so a smart coach, which anybody that's a professional is going to be able to counter pretty quickly and change to do it. So the trade-off is not always doing the same thing and everything else. It's like running it up the gut in football for 3 straight plays and wondering why why it didn't work on the third time.
I can't believe they sniffed that out.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you do change it, but yeah. So no, they're also crazy. Their coaches are insane. Like
the soccer coach.
Yeah.
And the fans are fucking nuts.
Rabid.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I mean, like riots and like fucking burning cars and throwing like what?
Yeah,
I was in
which
Romania.
we like to reserve for our politics.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, right? I was in Romania. They brought tires and lit them on fire and were rolling them down the street because, like, most teams, like the supporters will go, like, from a pub and they'll march down into the stadium. That's pretty traditional. But they did the same thing, except they were all hammered. This is, like, 9:30 in the morning, roughly. And they took tires. Like, we would have, like, kids with sticks, like the wheels and the stick, like you see in the old-timey videos. They were doing it, except the tires were on fire. And they were using sticks to go down the street. I'm like, this is.
And considering
crazy.
the way tires burn, that just seems really aggressive.
Yeah, right. Like you get that weird toxic smell, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, dude, this is passion on a different level. Like, I think maybe I'll buy a T-shirt or something. You know what I mean? These people are burning tires and drinking heavily before noon on Sundays and Saturdays. That's a different level of passion.
I wish I could get into a sport. I just can't. I don't have any. I can't get into a sport at all.
Their time, they take up a lot of your time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you get into like, I've one of the weird things that I've been doing lately. Which I can always say that, but, by the way, my indoor garden taken off. So like the draft. Remember how I've told you about the, like how I like the NFL draft more than I like the regular season for the most part. Because I'm really into that. The whole like the scouting and the fucking like, and the wheeling and dealing and all that stuff. Love the draft. So it was the Super Bowl hadn't even happened yet. Like as soon as the Vikings season was over, I started devoting all my time to mock drafts and stuff like that. And there's a lot of people like me out there. So there's like all these websites where you can go and, they've got all the players in there and shit. Like you can trade picks with other teams and stuff like that. And so like sports leads you to other, like just being a regular like football fan, that's one thing. But then sometimes you can get caught up in other weird shit like that. These little fucking rabbit holes, that and that is totally like I do a couple of mock drafts every day. Almost every day.
Jesus Christ, you're a geek.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, man, my interests are weird, but holy hell.
Right?
No, that's awesome.
And I mean just like
Good for
NFL
you.
draft, And there's a lot of people that do that. Like,
So you role play as like a general manager is what you're saying? Like,
well, no, it's just, I mean, it doesn't, like, there aren't other people involved. It's just a simulation that you run
okay.
on these sites.
On a site?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then like the whole thing of it, the value of it is like, it's just total straight up mental masturbation. But the only value that it has is that, while you're drafting these players, you're like finding new guys and you're looking them up and you're trying to figure out like, does this guy fit into what we do? Like no, this guy's a big plotter. Like this offensive lineman's a big fucking heavy guy. Like he can pass block, but he can never get out like in our zone running scheme and shit. And like his mobility's not good enough. But you learn about these different players and shit. So finally, when the draft comes along, like who the fuck these guys are. You've got your favorites and stuff. And then once the draft is over, well, just like anything with any sports thing, once it's all said and done, like
On to the next
cool.
thing.
That's over. Let's start over again next year. The garden though. So I've never planted a garden.
Hold on 1 second. Restroom right over there.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
should we
we
take a
have to
time
take a
out?
break. I gotta go pee too.
Yeah. All
All
right.
right, we'll be right back. Welcome back to Spitballing, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Matt Taylor here with my good buddy,
Kyle Amundsen.
and we have John Carlson.
Hello,
So tell me about your
everybody.
fucking garden.
Let's hear it.
It's 3 buckets. So as soon as the market's not ridiculous, we're gonna buy a house. Whenever we find the right house, whatever. But I need a garden. It's something I want to do with Boo Boo.
Yeah.
Just like he's gonna garden with me and whatever. And I need some skills.
Yeah.
Part of my prepper stuff. I want a garden. I want chickens. All that bullshit. I've never grown anything. So I figured, okay, fucking I'll grow some potatoes, the easiest. But I mean, my place now, I don't have fucking I can't plant a garden. We rent. So I figured out how to do it. I didn't figure out how to do it. I read about it. And so I drilled some holes in the bottom of
Mother
some 5-gallon
Earth.
buckets, and I left my seed potatoes out so they grew those little fucking things off them or whatever, the chits or whatever, planted them, and they grow amazingly fast. But I chose potatoes because obviously besides I love potatoes. It's an ethnic thing. I can't do without potatoes. And so I'm like, okay, I can't fuck up potatoes, right? And so far I haven't. It's been 12 days. So I planted them on the first. And you put the little seed potato in there in what is it? 4 inches of 4 inches of soil. And I prepared my soil and all that shit, I was doing this right. And then 6 more inches of dirt on top of that, and it only took 10 days for them to pop out fucking sprout out the top. So I was surprised by that. I thought it was going to take
Nature's amazing.
longer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm growing potatoes in buckets in my dining room.
We got a raised bed garden this last summer from the people up there by you guys. Happy Dancing Turtle
Oh yeah.
people. Yeah. Can't remember the guy's name, but the son of the old man, I can't remember.
You're
Hunt?
thinking of Ryan Hunt.
Ryan Hunt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Met about a
Bunch of smart people. Smart
yeah,
family.
they're
Yes,
super
indeed.
fucking smart. Actually, I like what's his name? What's the old man Hunt's
Paul.
name? Paul. I really enjoy him. One day I was out there for something. I was doing some video work for them or whatever, and there's just this fucking super old dude, kind of sitting there, and he's all, I don't know, he's fucking cute. He's just a cute human. and he goes, do you think it's too bright in here? And I said, well, I don't think so. And he goes, I think it's too bright in here. I said, oh, well, I mean, maybe. He goes, oh, okay, good. And he takes out this remote control and hits his button, and this fucking curtain comes out. He said, I worked on it all day yesterday, and I really wanted to use it. I'm like, you're fucking cute. But yeah, so she bought this raised bed garden. It's really clever how it works. It's you can collapse it down and everything, and it'll last a million years or whatever. But so the kids, they grew a bunch of shit, and we got a bunch of cucumbers and peppers and shit out of it, and it was pretty awesome.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna learn to grow other stuff, and then once I have I've already that's a project for you in the future.
I have 35 5-gallon buckets right now.
Oh no, I was talking about building the raised garden
Oh, I'll do
things.
that,
Just because. And this never occurred to me, but while I was investigating that, reading about that, they were like, don't use treated lumber, and I'm like, oh, that makes sense, yeah, because you don't want the chemicals leaching into the food and stuff like that, whatever.
Yeah, makes sense.
Which makes total sense. Probably something I should have come up with. I should have been able to come up with on my own while I was thinking about it. Didn't even occur to me. But
Yeah.
then again, lumber is not, like I'm not a handy guy like that. I don't think about shit like that. But
Yeah.
When you're doing a raised bed garden, though, it's outside. I mean, it's not that bad to use treated lumber. You just want a barrier in between your treated lumber and your dirt. So you just put a plastic barrier.
is that for real, or
I
is
don't
that the
know,
autism talking?
It might be the autism talking. When we're gonna get in trouble with autistic people. Oh wait, who cares? Oh, I'm just joking. I jest.
We're uncancelable. Remember,
That's true.
we come because we come pre-canceled.
Right.
Basically, you've got to come here and kick the shit out of us to get us to stop from putting this shit out.
So, John, you do this trivia mafia thing.
Yes.
What the fuck is that?
Oh, all right. Trivia Mafia. Trivia Mafia is a company that puts on bar trivia and pub trivia. And it's something that I used to do when I lived abroad, because pub trivia is really popular abroad compared to the States. It's taken off here like over the last 10 years. But I mean, I was doing it, ever since I was abroad, basically. I hosted pub trivia. And so when I came up here, I saw an ad saying, hey, look, they're looking for a host and brainer. So I was like, all right, gets me out of the house and probably meet some people, because we live so far out of a very, very small town that it's just like, dude, I need to meet somebody cool. And so I ended up starting with them, and then I hosted Roundhouse for years, Sage on Laurel, do it there. And then once COVID hit, some of my regulars asked me to do it online. So I was like, all right, that's cool. I can do that. And so I kind of put it together on Facebook, just on my own page. And we had, I want to say like 30 or 40 teams play, and then people are like, well, you should do it again. So I was like, all right, I should probably make it a little bit more easier to work. And so I kind of created a group called BLA Community Trivia Nights Streams or something, and I just told people join that group and you can play along. I just post up Facebook Live so people can talk to me on chat while I host it live, and everybody plays along and scores themselves. And yeah, at some points we were averaging over 100 teams a night. Like, it was crazy. And so I had to rope in my bless my wife, God bless her, she's an awesome human being. She does not enjoy being on camera or things of that nature, and so I had to rope her in to help, because I'm like, dude, this is way too many people. So she helped me out for a number of months, and slowly people started dropping off, just because people are like, all right, we can do something else now. And so, but yeah, we still do it every single Wednesday, and yeah, I host it.
So if people want to get involved, is it like something that you can just get involved in?
Yeah, absolutely. You can literally just type in on Facebook, look up groups, and then just type in BLA Community Trivia Mafia or Trivia Nights Streams, and join the group. Send me a request. I put you in, and yeah, you play along with a whole bunch of other people every Wednesday at 7:00.
See, I fucking hate trivia.
I'm not good at it either.
Well, see, and that's why I hate it, because, but there's more to it than just sucking at it. When I was young, and I don't know if this is because of the drugs or what the fuck, but so when I was young and I was a teenager and stuff like that, like, awesome. Just, but like I said, bookish kid. I've told you before, like, I read a lot. Like, I was a smart kid. So then, fast forward decades, and I don't know, 10 years ago, maybe less. I finally, like, you know what? I'm fucking good at trivia. Like, let's play some bar trivia. So me and a couple of my friends were at Sorba's, and I realized I'm not fucking good at trivia anymore. I'm actually pretty fucking bad at it.
I'm not good at trivia, especially if it comes up like with popular,
like pop culture
pop
stuff?
culture shit.
Yeah,
I'm horrible.
Yeah, I'm outside of my element with pop culture.
No, like, and I always used to think like, oh, well, I'm just specialized. I'm pretty fucking specialized, because I don't know shit about most everything in the world.
It might just be special.
That could be it.
Very well.
That's my autism kicking in.
So how do you? We gotta stop saying autism.
I know. I fucking, like, we've already alienated 2 of the fucking 5 people that watch this shit.
So, how do you don't write the trivia questions?
Sometimes I do.
Do you?
If it's because we do charity nights, and the charity night things are basically like we have people ask for a particular topic, and then I write all the questions for that topic. And
yeah, because Meta said when I brought her coffee today, she said, "Tell John I'll talk to him about the splash pad trivia.
Yeah,
this week."
yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. I don't know what
Yeah.
you're talking about, but okay.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. So
Meta posts up something about the splash pad for the community or whatever, and I was like, well, I've got some free time, so I reached out to Meta and just sent her a note saying, hey, look, if there's something I can do to help you guys raise some funds, and one thing that I can do is do a trivia night for you guys and have people donate. So if you have like a GoFundMe or things like that, we've done them for the Mid-Minnesota Women's Center. We've done it for the shop. We've done it for a couple different places up here. And yeah, it's always nice to be able to kind of do something for the community. And so for Meta, what I'll do is I'll write a custom trivia night. Probably, I've got no idea because I can't imagine there's a lot of splash pad based trivia. So I'm gonna have to come up with
I
something.
wouldn't think so.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to come up with something. But we'll do that, and we'll throw up the GoFundMe and raise a couple $100 for her and help her out that way.
All right, hit us with a trivia question.
Oh, really? Is this how we're gonna play it? You're
Yeah.
gonna ask me right now on the
spot.
On the spot. Oh, you son of a bitch! All right. What do I got? All right.
This is a contest, by the way.
Oh, is that what, you guys have a topic that you'd want to do in particular?
Matt's very competitive, even though I always win.
All right.
I am pretty competitive, actually.
All right. If you're competitive, Kyle,
I'm not competitive.
pick a topic.
Not sports.
Oh, let's see. Gosh. We'll do something from history.
Oh, I was
History.
history.
All right.
Go with history.
All right.
Well, see, I figured that one would be fair.
All right. Let's do this. Do you want to do like best 2 out of 3, 3 out of 5, however many it takes for you to win?
Until I win.
Okay. All right. So let's do this. U.S.'s first organizing document to set up the federal government was called what?
Articles of Confederation.
Dang, there you go. 1-0. All right. Number 2, Civil War.
I don't like history.
Civil Wars.
Neither civil nor a war.
Exactly. What was that from?
It was from Coffee Talk on Saturday Night
Yes,
Live.
that's it.
Civil War. Neither civil nor a war. Discuss.
I remember that. Oh my God. All right. Civil War ended in what year?
1865.
Correct.
Oof.
2 for 0. All right, let's see.
Okay, if I get 3 in a row, can we stop?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So let's do longest war in American history.
In American history?
Is it
The
really a
current
war,
war.
though?
The war on terror.
Afghanistan. Afghanistan would be the correct answer. There you go.
All right, moving
That's
on.
it.
I think I got the war on terror.
Yeah, war on terror. That's true. The war on
but
drugs.
the war on terror.
Yeah, that could actually be the longest one.
Yeah, that would be the longest war. One they'll never win.
Right. Yeah. One could say I already lost.
Yes, indeed.
Well, that's the way to win it.
Exactly.
To not do it.
Exactly. Just quit.
Oh, man.
Quit while you're behind.
Okay, so I have a couple of other things on my list. Okay, I want to talk about The Expanse. You watch The Expanse?
No, never even heard
Oh
of
my
this.
Are you a
God,
science fiction guy at
so
all?
should.
I brush up against science fiction with my interests, but I'm not like hardcore into
I don't
like
think you have to be science fiction.
No,
to-
Christine loves that fucking show. Like, totally fell in love with it. Not any kind
So
of science fiction fan
The
at all.
Expanse is a science fiction show that's on Amazon Prime,
okay.
and it's not. There's no faster than light travel.
It's
There's
kind
no-
of low, like just like in like the fantasy genre, we call it like low fantasy when there isn't like all kinds of weird magic and shit like that and elves and stuff like that. That's low fantasy. Like when it's very like realistic.
Okay.
And this is like low science fiction.
Yes. Yeah. And it's fucking amazing.
Because they
All right.
pay attention to physics and shit like that, which makes the show better.
Yeah.
You would think that it would limit them and stuff.
It
but
was written by
fuck.
apparently a team or a couple of people, according to Sam Gibbons. But they were they're both like astrophysicists and so it like has a bunch. The books are all very sciencey.
Okay.
It's very, very good.
By nerds
But anyway,
for nerds.
have you
Yep,
caught up?
I'm all caught up.
So what did you think about? So this is. I'm sorry, John. You're just gonna do it.
No, that's totally fine. I'll just pivot my head.
What did you think about how they got rid of Alex?
You know, I was like, no, they fucking didn't. But I was like, afterwards, I was like, that just is the only thing that makes sense.
So
You
basically,
fucking kill him off.
there was a character, a main character, who got in trouble for some
inappropriate
fiddly diddly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently he was
with some underage.
It sounds like he was a
people, too.
fucking creep.
Yeah, kind of did sound
you
like
know?
he was a creep.
He was a fucking creep.
Okay.
Like not, like I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I hear shit and I'm like, why the fuck would you want to be famous if you can't try to get it in? But then I see guys like this, and I'm like, okay, motherfucker, like you're actually kind of a fucking piece of shit. You're kind of a turd, like especially, and he was doing that thing that I don't admire, like fucking no matter who the fuck you are, like it seems especially ridiculous if you're famous and stuff like that. But like that whole when he gets turned down, he gets really like abusive and shit like that. And I'm like, okay, that's not a good look for anybody.
So I didn't look too much into it all, other than I heard that there were some
I did, 'cause
minors involved,
Yeah.
or young people. I'm not sure that I think they were minors, but they apparently they had finished the season. It was all filmed and everything, and then they were like, "Oh fuck, we got to get rid of this guy."
Oh, wait. So this actually happened in reality.
Yeah.
Oh, see, now that's totally different, folks. This isn't the show. This is real life. Okay.
So
I was like, man, that's an interesting
real-
topic for a show to tackle.
No,
pedophilia.
In real life, the dude was a creep or whatever.
Oh,
Yeah.
And
okay.
His
and
character was great.
His
Wonderful.
character was fucking wonderful. So he's one of the main characters in the show, and now they finish the season,
Yeah.
and they're like,
Then he gets
well,
in trouble.
Fuck, we gotta
You
get,
gotta knock him off.
we gotta knock
Yeah.
him off,
Yeah.
but we can't have him on to knock him off. Right?
Yeah.
All
Like
right.
we've got we've parted company.
And they
So-
did a pretty good job with it.
Yeah.
I was like, it bugged me though, because it's like, what are you gonna do?
And
You
in the
can't-
books, he's still alive.
Oh, so now you've got to adapt
So
the
it's
story based off of this dude.
So it's a challenge. But but here's the upside. The book writers are the show writers too.
Oh, that's cool. That's
so
cool. They'll
you know,
figure out a way.
Yeah, it's not gonna they're not gonna fucking George R. R. Martin that shit.
Actually, didn't know that they were the
Yeah,
show writers.
they're on the
no
show.
wonder it's so adheres so well to the book. That's amazing.
And so like that's a big edge, And when after I thought about it, I'm like, killing him off like that, like it was a surprise. And it's always good to kill off main characters, as we know from Martin.
Yeah.
Yep,
Because
absolutely.
it fucking like it's not what we're used to. It doesn't it didn't happen. Like I remember like reading books and shit, and there was the main character. You're like, kudos if that book is exciting, because your main character's safe.
Like if somebody does die, they're getting resurrected. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna fucking bring him back or whatever.
And it's like,
so Ned Stark was like that. That all changed for me when Ned Stark lost his head.
Yeah.
And you're like, how are you gonna bring him back?
Yeah, totally. I was trying to figure it out.
Right.
Didn't happen. His fucking head got cut off. Who knew?
See, now I was like that with the Red Wedding because I'm like, okay, obviously they're comfortable killing people off.
Did you didn't read the Game
No,
of Thrones
no,
books?
no.
Okay, so Kyle and I both read them all.
Okay.
So we were, but yes, so last week, or last time we met, I had the opportunity to introduce Meta to a series. She gave me a coupon booklet, and one of the coupons said, "You get to pick the next fucking series," and it was stressing me out because I was like, "Fucking."
You didn't know what to pick.
yeah,
it was
what
hard
do you,
to say.
what do you pick?
I don't want to take a risk on something that I might not like, and I don't. So it needs to be something I know I like, and also I don't want to do something where I'm like that. She's gonna. I know she didn't want to watch Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
I know she didn't want to watch it. She mentioned it aggressively multiple times.
Do not suggest what you watching this show.
Could not take Kyle's recommendation because Big Wet Asses is a series of movies, not a TV series.
Volume 4 is the best. Yeah.
Well, it answers all those questions. Since you answered volume 3.
So we're midway through season 5
Oh, wow.
already.
Fuck yeah.
How's she feeling about it?
Right.
All right.
She's a junkie.
Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah.
the thing. I didn't think I would
It
get
took her
into
a
it,
little
but-
while.
See, Christine put up a big fight, but then of course got hooked like everybody does.
Well, it's really well done, and
Yeah.
She was like, I have had to like put the kibosh on. Let's watch one more, and I'm like, baby, it's 2:00 in the morning. You get up at 5. Like, fuck, you can't watch another one. She's been really liking it. But one thing I noticed watching it this time through is, do you remember what is his name? Nazoga Nordet, the fucking guy who is like Danny's lover. The one who kills, he's the leader of the or he was one of the leaders of the
Yeah.
7 Sons, and then he goes and kills the other
Yeah,
two.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Between season 3 and season 4,
Different guy, yeah.
different
Yeah,
guy.
different
Recast.
Didn't know that. I never noticed
You didn't
that.
notice that?
No. And I was like, what the fuck? Who's this guy? How would they do that without? They didn't even try to make him look anything like the other guy.
No.
It's because you haven't been paying enough attention to memes.
Oh.
It's all in the memes. Shit's like tea leaves.
I'm just gonna throw this out there. I didn't read or watch Harry Potter when it came out. I had no idea that they replaced who's it? Dumbledore. The dude that acted as Dumbledore in the first one died
Well,
after
he died,
the first
yeah.
one, and then they replaced him with
I never
who's
noticed.
his
I guess.
name? The guy that played him.
Yeah.
Huge actor.
Yeah, Gandalf.
Gandalf. Yeah.
Or no, was it Gandalf or was it?
Yeah, he played Gandalf.
Okay, yeah. No.
I don't know. Honestly,
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
I never watched them. Like, I've never really watched them. I've read all the books, though.
Yeah, I enjoyed them. I did enjoy them though. I even tried to watch that second, like that little spinoff. No.
Oh, The Hobbit.
No.
Oh.
No, The Hobbit was great. But actually, the movies weren't that great. But
I didn't think the Hobbit
The,
movie was okay, but
Yeah.
the one about the
Lord of the Rings.
the Harry Potter spinoff.
Yeah, you're talking about
The
something about animals and creatures
Yeah.
and crazy
something
fucking
of
shit.
usual, extraordinary things, or
Yeah,
something.
some shit like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
That didn't catch me. But I like the Harry Potter movies, and I didn't think I was gonna. I made fun of that shit.
Yeah.
Did you read the books?
Fuck no.
Oh, they're fucking great books. Fucking great books.
Well,
Yeah.
although I
Pro-
haven't,
Actually, probably some of the best written books for kid. Like I can't remember what age Harry is when it starts out. Like 10, 12, whatever. And that book is written for a 10, 12-year-old. And then the next book's written for a 13, 14-year-old. The next book's written for 15. And like they really get bigger, darker, deeper, more interesting. Every single book. I mean, it's like if you were going to have a kid start out reading a book a year or whatever, that'd be the way to go, because it's like it runs right along that timeline for them.
That 17-year-old book where it just gets real dark.
Yeah,
yeah.
The last one, the Half-Blood Prince or whatever, that's a fucking. I mean, the book's that thick and is dark.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I've never read the books, but I've watched the movies. And
Yeah,
the kid turns 19. He's reading the one, and Harry's fucking a heroin addict and fucking sucking dick in a bus stop bathroom. And
actually, he the actor that played Harry Potter did. Well, isn't I don't think he's a heroin addict, but he had like one of his roles after that is a real fucking. I never watched it, but he's like a doctor and like a fucking
I
junkie.
watched
and
him
shit.
in a it was he played as a cop that he played a young police officer that infiltrated a skinhead gang,
Oh,
and he was that guy's a
Yeah.
pretty legit
Yeah, he's
actor.
pretty
He's
good
pretty
actor.
yeah.
all right.
okay. So you finally broke down and got yourself some Jawbone headsets.
Yeah. And they're not just awesome. That shit'll change your life. So I was like waiting because I don't fucking read anymore. But audiobooks, yeah, dude, I ordered those and got that as soon as they showed up. I joined Audible, and then of course I had to bump my prescription. Yeah, fuck yeah, bump that up too.
Yeah.
But I had to bump up my subscription because I obviously need more credits, because everywhere I go now, I'm listening to a goddamn book. And I haven't listened to one like nonfiction book yet. I'm indulging my goddamn like love of like guilty pleasure shit.
So what have
fantasy
you
stuff.
listened to so far? I know you listened to.
I burned through
King Raven.
Yeah, burned through those. That was 35 hours worth of.
Yeah, just 35 hours.
You know,
great. It's actually a great deal on a book because it's 3 books but you get them all together.
Yeah,
which
and
is
that
great.
shit is no joke, because I saw like I had up my plan to get more credits, because when I started reading Cornwall,
Cornwall.
Yeah. The
Bernard Cromwell?
It's not Cromwell.
No?
No. I think it's Cornwell.
What book?
The Winter King. So of course I was gonna start with the Arthurian, the Arthurian legend stuff.
It's not Cromwell.
No, that fucked me up when I was doing my
Weird.
search for it. But
So
I think it's
so that guy, Bernard C. Whatever.
Yeah.
He writes like really
like historically
historically accurate fiction.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily
instead
what
of-
happened. He just gets it all right, like the armor's right, all that kind of stuff.
But man, I'm telling you, between those two series, so we're talking like southwestern, Cornwall. That starts out southwestern England.
Yep.
And the Hood books, those are in Wales.
Yep.
Man,
You're feeling very English.
well, just the fucking pronunciation, like the names and stuff like that. Holy fucking shit! So and I was always into that shit because the
Now
Chronicles
you're
of
going to be
Prydain.
saying
By a
it's you.
vowel. Yeah.
The Chronicles of Prydain that I told you about, the Book of Three, the Black Cauldron, all that shit. Those were all Welsh. Those were all based in like Welsh legend and fairy tale and shit. And man, like I've like over the years, like being kind of a Anglophile, I've like kind of bounced around like Great Britain. Like, man, Irish culture's so cool. Man, the Scots. Man, now I'm like, fucking Wales is pretty interesting.
They are. Yeah.
The Welsh are interesting.
The
I'm not gonna argue.
the Welsh archers. That's the
Yeah.
that revolutionized. I think you should read when you get done with that. I think that the next best one that he did is Agincourt.
Oh, Agincourt?
Agincourt. I can never remember the way to say that, but yeah, it's great.
Man.
Do you audiobooks?
I used to do them a lot because
Yeah.
when I'd travel, I'd have to listen to something. So I used to do a lot of audiobooks, check out a library, and then get back. And that's
Books
how I
on
used to,
tape.
Exactly, because we're talking, 15, 20 years ago. So it's like, all right, whatever medium I could do. That's what I would try. But no, I mean, I do a lot of reading, but it's a lot of nonfiction. I have like my interests in fiction, but it's like so particular that it's like, all right, it's not easy to find stuff that appeals to me in fiction. So
Well, like what?
okay, here's like my very narrow scope for like fiction that I'm interested in is like mid-century, like spy dramas. So like John le Carre. Absolutely phenomenal. So like Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, all those sorts of old timey novels where it's literature wrapped around like spy novels. And so I get down on that, but I also get down on a lot of Swedish crime. So things like Henning Mankell.
What was the name of the one?
John le Carre, the Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. I'll lend it to you. I've got every book.
I don't read.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy is his best novel. It's probably, in my opinion, it's the best novel of the 20th century.
Damn.
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal. It's all about a internal mole I'm not giving anything away here because that's like page 4. But yeah, so like it's basically this guy who got kicked out and has to figure out a mole inside the British Secret Service. And
so that's what you're interested in.
But this is after he got kicked out?
Spy drama.
yeah,
So
yeah.
he's got to so he's got to find him from the outside.
Yeah, he gets kicked out because basically it has like a person who's known as C or Control that runs British Secret Service. And so he's that person's right-hand man. That one kind of goes off the deep end. He becomes unpopular, so they kind of both get tossed out. And so turns out that they have a mole afterwards, and so this guy has to come back into the system to try to figure out who the mole is, and he's reporting directly to basically the Undersecretary of State, with the British version of it. And so it's basically him trying to deal with these 4 particular people, trying to figure out which one's the mole. One of them is having a very public affair with his wife for a long time, and so he has to deal with that. And on top of it, so it's this incredibly human drama surrounding spy novels and a spy story. And so the character is named George Smiley. Brilliant story. Actually, on YouTube, you can watch what's his name? Come on, Alec Guinness. Sir Alec Guinness plays the character in a 6-part documentary on the BBC back in the early 80s, which is fantastic. So you can check that out too. But yeah, super cool.
Old Cold War era goddamn spy stuff.
Give me Cold War era spy stuff any day of the week.
So that's your little tiny.
That's like my tiny niche. My larger niche would be like Scandinavian crime drama. So like
Scandinavian crime drama.
Yeah, like Henning Mankell. So basically Wallander, if you've ever heard of the show.
Yeah.
Wallander is based off of Henning Mankell, and each episode of Wallander is a book of Henning Mankell's. And so basically you follow the career of a police officer as he ages and grows old, and he has to deal with his private life in addition to the crime. Kind of like, what was that show, Luther? Kind of like the same thing, like the guy you're dealing with, the guy's personal life on top of being a cop. Yeah, same sort of concept. So.
That's becoming more popular, like humanizing these guys a little bit. There's a really good Canadian cop drama that I watched. I like fucking burned through all this. The seasons are short, and I can't remember the goddamn name of it, but more it makes for a more interesting, like, well, it makes for an actually interesting cop show.
Yeah.
Because we've got to see that shit evolve over the years, from like Dragnet
exactly
to like NYPD Blue
exactly.
to like what we've got now, which I loved NYPD Blue, but that the evolution of the cop drama, cool shit.
Yeah, there's something to it where when you take these intrinsically, I don't want to say like an American story, but cop tales are very much like the American story. The whole one guy against the world, good versus evil, yada, yada, yada. But when you start to humanize that sort of experience makes it much more rich and much more palatable, instead of just being a bunch of tropes that I don't care about.
Add some
watching.
Texture instead of like
exactly.
Oh, congratulations, you got the bad guy.
Like Ken Follett, the Pillars of the Earth. Like, man, that nothing but texture. If you guys are into fantasy,
Love Ken Follett. Yeah, Pillars. You like that?
Pillars of the Earth is fantastic.
Great
yeah.
book.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic.
That's very similar to he's a historical fiction writer. So he that Pillars of the Earth is
Jackdaws. He's done a couple other things.
I can't remember what that's actually about. Is that about the making of the cathedral?
No, Jackdaws is it's actually a World War II spy novel.
Oh, I didn't read. But the Pillars of the Earth.
Yeah, Pillars of the Earth is totally separate from Jackdaws.
The
Pillars of the Earth is the building of the cathedral,
right?
Yeah.
So it's this incredibly long and in-depth story about building a fucking cathedral. But which just doesn't sound interesting at all.
Yeah, as it sounds. Yeah,
it doesn't. It doesn't sound. But it's so interesting because you get to
it's written around that.
It's written around, and you get to actually look inside the what life was like at that particular period in time.
Well, it's multi-generational, so it's kind of got like Godfather 2 feel, where it's like, okay, I'm getting the current story. Yeah, exactly. I'm getting the current story plus the previous story. Like, it's
I've read
incredible.
5 or 6 Ken Follett's books.
Yeah.
Well, see, now that I'm and I'm reading these, no, but I'm listening to these. I'm listening to them in the car. I'm listening to them when I go to bed at night. I'm like just always trying to like oh shit, like no matter what I'm doing, if I'm out like I'm outside sanding a goddamn table, like okay, I gotta crank the volume up.
Now you're gonna have to get into podcasts because it's free content that in many cases is just as fun and interesting as the the shit that you're listening to.
Yeah.
Like Dan Carlin, Hardcore History, it's the best fucking podcast in the world.
Well, so far your recommendations are gold. So
The Bookwise?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I could actually run through and like I can give you some top picks.
Well, I need to get to I should get back to some of the stuff that I would that I was reading when I still read, because I even tried to read as much as I loved I loved all Al Franken's books.
Yeah.
But the last one, Giant of the Senate, I tried to read after he was already
the
out,
fall,
and I'm like, even though he really does a nice job, man.
Yeah.
He's actually I should put this on Facebook. That just the beginning, Giant of the Senate starts out with why he became a Democrat. And it's fucking amazing because he just lists off a bunch of stuff that led him and his wife, what colored their lives, what led them to, what contributed to him, his political philosophy today. And it's great. It's shit like his life was a lot more comfortable than hers. Her family dealt with some misfortune and shit,
Yeah.
Franny. And there was certain government programs and shit like that were there to make sure she still had some opportunities and stuff. I should really throw that up on Facebook, even though I'm gonna have to do battle.
because you hate that.
Yeah, I was gonna say
I don't always
because you don't like posting controversial things.
I don't always love it. In fact, sometimes I just get bored and walk away, in the middle of it. I'm just meh.
I imagine it's the opposite way, where you're just like, I'm bored. I'm gonna just post up some crazy shit onto Facebook and then walk away and let them fight it out for 3 hours.
Who the hell was it? Somebody. I think it was Pete Charpentier that tagged me in that Conehead thing. What is best in life?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
That's a great post.
Shit.
And then nonfiction. What do you read?
Nonfiction. I read a lot of political stuff that's really boring. Basically, because I'm a policy wonk at heart. So I read a lot of political policy, which doesn't really excite people. I read political bills.
Oh man.
Yeah, I
I can never get into that. I mean, I love me some Chomsky or but that's far from policy. That's far from boring.
Well, that's macroscope stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And macro is awesome, but for me, it's I minutia.
You like the
detail.
deep dive.
Yeah, give me the actual minutia of it. Let's hash this out and figure it out. So I mean, I geek out on stupid stuff, man. I really do. Honestly, people get weird about, the Hot Wheel collections. I get weird about House resolution bills that are never going to get passed or even out of subcommittee. But I'll read the whole thing just because I'm kind of curious to see what these people are actually trying to get away with.
Yeah, that sounds fucking boring.
Yeah, it pretty much is. But I like to know. So it's one of those things where I'm never going to say that I've read every bill that's passed. God, no. But I do try to keep breast, especially when people are saying, well, this is what this does, and I'm just like,
yeah,
it doesn't seem weird to me just because I already admitted that I do mock drafts.
Yeah, it's true.
Which that shit's
they're both
pointless.
pretty geeky.
It doesn't get much more pointless than what I do.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, at the end of the day, nobody needs to know what I know about it. So, I mean, that's also pointless.
So, do you have any aspirations to go into politics?
Not particularly. I get asked a lot to consider running. I don't know if I would. I will say this, depending upon redistricting in 22, and if I get put in with Gazelka, I would be interested. Mostly because I think he needs to be taken down a peg or two. Yeah, he's a
Just because he's a turd.
he's a lousy politician. If you want me to be honest about it, everything that he says is basically contradicted by everything that he votes, and that pains me. The dude that talks about freedom and yet aims to restrict every personal choice that we possibly could have in this state. The irony is brutal with him.
Minnesota's so weird politically.
Yeah, I mean, we're a populist state. People forget that.
Well, it's like we've got just hanging on to a little bit of that European populism, you know?
Yeah.
But, man, the rednecks are everywhere. And, you know, like, when I talk about the rednecks and stuff, like, this is something that's been troubling me a lot lately. Education, you know, like, the less you put into education, the more, like, you wind up with an ignorant, well, we'll just say a less nimble electorate, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like, damn, you know, like, let's spend, you know, but it doesn't behoove them to spend more money on education because, you know, well, we don't want them to be educated.
Exactly.
I don't know those people, and I don't know how they vote.
That's
you know,
another.
like that.
That's
Shit.
another fiscally conservative view. Is what is it called? Preschool. You know, like preschool,
Pre-K.
pre-K.
Yep.
Yeah, I was like, what's a K?
Yeah, kindergarten.
That's what it stands for. Pre-K. But like every dollar you spend in pre-K, you know, gives you like a 10 return on that investment. So like it's fiscally conservative to spend money on pre-K.
Yeah, in Minnesota, we've proven that for every dollar that we spend, we get back at least 8 in a return on the back end.
So it's like, well, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah,
right. We should definitely spend money on pre-K.
And this is a state that seems to like. I mean, by comparison, we really value education here.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Which terrifies me when I think about Alabama. You know, shit like that.
Yeah, it should.
Fuck.
Dude, no joke. I'm assuming that we're roughly in the same age. I'm in my early 40s. I'm 43.
I'm 47.
48 now.
Oh,
okay.
That's
All
right. You're
old as dirt.
We're like the same age. He's a couple months older than me.
No joke. I was in Huntsville, Alabama, 2011. Yeah, 2011. Huntsville, Alabama. They were using the exact same textbook I used in my fifth grade math class. Literally the exact same one. Same cover, same everything. I was like, holy shit. What? I mean, I get it. It's math. It doesn't change that much. But the fact that I had that textbook in, how old are you? I would have been like 1985. I mean, what the hell? You know, like that. But that's how it is. But in Minnesota, I'll say this. Our Republicans in a majority of states would look very much like Democrats. I will say that. So.
Well, there's a lot more of that going on. Actually, I meant to bring this up earlier because I was just reading about it yesterday. I love that, by the way. And they were talking about with all the people, like, you know, the post-Trump era people, Republicans leaving the party and kind of starting their own party, and like without with kind of the working title of left center, or no, of right center, like of a right center party or a center right party.
Probably center right.
Yeah, center right party. And the guy that I was listening to, reading, he was like, "We've already got a center right party. It's called the Democratic Party."
Yeah.
You know. Which is totally legit.
Which, like the Biden.
Yeah.
Democrat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Your status quo, like those are not lefties. You know, like
Right.
those are fucking like.
No, Barry Goldwater was more liberal than Joe Biden. That's not a joke.
Fair.
That's. Let me throw this out there. Nixon created the EPA.
Right. Right.
Think about that for a second. You know what I mean?
And the other act.
Yeah, clean air, clean water.
No, yes, but fucking A. What was the other thing he did? He did the Voters' Right Act.
Yeah.
Yeah, Yeah, which was another huge,
So
like,
anybody that doesn't think that like everything is because everything's shifted to the left. No, everything is
God,
shifted
no.
dramatically to the right.
Yeah.
There's no fucking there's no way to prove it's not even a like. You can say it, but it's stupid. There's no way to there's no proof that things have shifted to the left. Quite the fucking contrary. I think people say that just because black people are using the same bathrooms and stuff as we are. That doesn't mean shit.
People equate social progress with leftist ideas. And that
in and of itself
should tell you probably a few things, right? But I mean, people think that just because we have gay marriage that it's become this weird leftist nation. No, God, no.
Fuck no.
At the end of the day, being a progressive, and I use that word versus liberal versus.
I like it. I'm trying to get into the habit.
Yeah,
more.
But I think that there's very big differences between the two. A progressive would say, okay, a liberal would say, we're fighting for change. We're fighting to bring in minimum wage, $15 an hour, whatever. And a progressive would say, we're doing this to correct the historical record, which would state that when we created minimum wage, if we tied it into inflation and cost of living and everything else, it'd be $28 an hour today. So a progressive would say that we are only correcting previous mistakes. And that's what progress actually is. Women's right to choose, gay marriage, gay adoption, transgender rights. These are things that we can correct because we messed up originally by not giving this out from the get-go. Nobody would imagine that Washington should be sitting around talking about gay rights. That's a crazy concept. But the idea is that when they said that all men were created equal, that just meant white men. And we need to correct that record. And so that's progress. Progress is correcting previous mistakes. That's it. That's what we do. And everything that we have done that's been a mistake is what progressives move towards. Liberals are people like Joe Biden, who is a centrist liberal Democrat, which means he's socially liberal and economically and even on some social issues conservative. And we need to look at that, and we need to ask ourselves, is that what the Democratic Party is anymore? And I don't know if we are. I think that we don't talk about the fact that the Democrats have a huge wedge in between them. And we're on a very tacit, sort of uncomfortable piece right now with ourselves. There's a whole lot of progressives that voted for Biden solely because they couldn't handle Trump.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean?
I would have to think that the majority of people that voted for Biden voted for him simply because he wasn't Trump.
Yeah. At the end
I don't know that he was anybody's pick.
No, I mean, I remember when Klobuchar dropped. I remember going, it's Biden. I remember as soon as I heard that Klobuchar and Buttigieg were out, I'm like, it's going to be Biden.
I still have some
circling
fucking anger about that whole Super Tuesday bullshit.
Yeah.
As well you
it was
should.
just a fuck. It was just a. To me, it just seemed like it was a fuck Bernie. But on the other side of it, I don't know that Bernie would have been the right president right now.
I'll say this: Bernie, I think, would not have done anything worse
Than Trump?
Than Biden. I think he would have handled everything basically what Biden has done right now. I'll say this as a progressive, somebody that was at the state convention a sworn Bernie supporter. I went as a Bernie delegate to the state convention. I'll say this: Biden's impressed me since he's taken office with progressive issues. So far, across the board, I was expecting a lot less.
Yeah, I've been pretty pleased. Like everybody's got their shit. I've got a couple of things. We can't pat ourselves on the back too hard for like getting out of bed with Saudi Arabia on Yemen.
Yeah.
Because that was Obama Biden. Although, like the bombings and shit that went up sixfold under Trump. You know, he was all in. He doubled down. He tripled down. Like fucking, he went nuts with that shit. But I mean, like, yep, we stopped it. Well, we started it. There's also stuff like some shit. Like I've got one issue that I always think about, and I spend too much time thinking about it because it's basically a non-issue. It's just something that it doesn't really happen very much, but conservatives latch onto it because they hate it. Like the whole, like if you were born a man, you shouldn't be competing in like women's sports and stuff. Okay, I get that. Like I get the whole, I get the, like I get what they're saying, and I don't know that I disagree with them. But then again, it's not something that I think about because it's not really. It's, I mean, how often do you think that fucking happens? You know,
It's
I mean,
the world's biggest non-issue.
right? Like, there's so many. You know, they like to put these fucking issues up, and they're like, "What about this?" And I'm like, "What about fucking climate change? Shut up!" You know, like, fucking grow up. You know. At the same time, I'm like, okay, like I don't want to dismiss this because I hate like having it thrown in my face because I'm like, yeah, that guy, like whatever the fuck, like and I'm still ignorant. Like I don't know about there's a lot that I don't know about the you know about the fucking like the trans community and shit like that. I know that I got in trouble for.
I saw this.
Yeah, on Facebook there was that whole like I said tranny. I didn't know that was like a dirty word now.
It's not the
It was
preferred
just the word.
nomenclature.
Yeah, I mean, wasn't it at one point though? Like, well, it was okay before, right? Like
It was socially acceptable in the same way that the F word would be referring to the gay community.
well, that's not good.
Yeah.
But then I was like, well, I use this because it was fucking ignorant on my part, you know. And I'm like, hey, I use this to, you know, to describe like a transsexual. Yeah. And then I found out that I couldn't say transsexual anymore. And I'm like, okay, like fuck, clearly I'm ignorant as fuck. I did not get the memo. Like I thought I at least thought transsexual was like was legit, but no, it's transgender now. Like now I know this, but I'm like, fuck, you know, like.
It's hard to keep up.
It is hard to keep up, you know.
Yeah, it is.
And fortunately, like I learned that in a comfortable, like you know, in a warm, comfortable environment like Facebook, where nothing bad can happen. But you know, fortunately, I fucking learned it there. Nobody really jumped my shit about it. Whatever, I might have got in trouble. I might have got a ban for that. I don't know, but. Yeah, it's hard to keep up. I did not know. But then I think about when I think about the sports thing, that one is a tough one for me, even though, like you said, not a fucking real issue.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, at the end of the day, anytime any conservative comes up to you and says, "Well, what about men using ladies' bathrooms and they're going to attack women?" And then
I think that one's hilarious.
You have a problem with rape. You don't have a problem with trans men. You have a problem with rapists.
Yeah.
That's a different problem. And then anytime anybody's like, okay, well, what about girls in sports and trans men are going to compete in the women's events and they're going to win? Who cares? Homelessness, poverty, child beating.
See, I don't want to just dismiss them like that.
But at the end of the day,
but I mean, it does seem like a small thing to.
We still have to put things into context for people because that's what
true.
the Republicans have done for 40 years. Literally,
Whataboutism.
Yeah, they've literally driven wedges down to the point where there's no longer anything remotely politically relevant that actually is going to affect people's lives. If the biggest concern that you have, if you're actually voting for a president of the United States on the basis of whether whether somebody's going to use a bathroom or not, rather than economic policy, rather than healthcare, rather than these sorts of things, we are never going to convince these people. And sometimes we have to slap each other into perspective. And I do the same thing. And so I try to be and I'm going to throw this out there. I respect the hell out of you because of the fact that you are so open about
I hear that never.
You are so incredibly open about how you are trying to grow as a person. As men, we don't say this to each other enough. I've watched you take on that tranny comment that you made, and I watched you own it, and I watched you actually work through it, and I see you trying to be a better person because of it. And at the end of the day,
that's an easy one though, because I don't feel like, I mean, just because that I don't see that as a weakness, you know. Whereas, man,
right?
Like there are people that can't say that. Oh, I did not know about that. Like I made a mistake, you know.
Oh,
like,
God, no.
It's fucking, you know, and that is scary to me. I'm like, holy shit. Yeah. We've got tons and tons of people that like can't say like, oops, that I fucked up. Like I did not know about that. That's on me.
Well,
you know?
we just lived through 4 years of
the
leader of the
but I appreciate
free world having zero ability to admit any amount of wrongness and
Very
being
true.
incredibly wrong all the time.
Oh.
No, we talk about it all the time about how important it is to that's what manning up is.
Yeah,
is
absolutely.
admitting that, when you fucked up and then trying to figure out how to do better in the future.
Every day, if you're not finding even the smallest of ways to improve yourself, it's a day wasted. You know what I mean? And so I've always tried to work on myself as being better.
And at the
I
same
think that
time,
that's-
if you're working on yourself, then you're tending to your integrity as well.
Exactly, but that's the side benefit of it, and the trade-off is I think, and I say this as a guy who came up late Gen X, so I came up in that era of I was raised by people that watched John Wayne and thought that was the right sort of man, but I also came up in the era of listening to Mazzy Star in high school and The Cure, so I get both sides of the issue, and I try to remind myself that being a man is not what I was raised as, and it's also not being what other people tell me. What being a man is it's being an adult. It's owning your shit. It's trying to improve yourself every day. And it's people like you that are being so public about that growth and watching people do that and watching people discuss that. That's huge, especially in places like this where there is zero male role models that have that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a huge thing. And when we talk about change, it's always generationally. It always has been. It always will be. If you look at the civil rights era, it takes 3 generations. First generation to come up with it, second generation to implement it, third generation to fix it. We're in third generation for civil rights. We're in the third generation for gay rights, and most of us forget that. But Stonewall happened in the 70s. So we're talking 50 years now. So at that point, we need to look at how we can lead other men that are coming up behind us, because I know for a fact that I want it to be easier than what I went through. And to be honest with you, I came up as a straight white male in suburban Minnesota.
We don't get much easier.
Yeah. I mean, I basically won the genetic lottery.
Yeah, your privilege had privilege, right?
Yeah, exactly. I am privilege on top of privilege on top of privilege.
Yeah.
And right, we when we were teenagers, we had to be punk rockers just so we could feel a little a little prejudice.
Right.
Exactly. Like you had to. I mean, I've always had the long hair, so I've always had that as my one voluntary strike against me. But
and people I see a lot of dudes with long hair and stuff like that, and around here, whatever, up my hometown and shit. Yeah. I look at these dudes, and I'm like, you have no idea what that cost, what we had to what it was like to have be the long haired freak.
Yeah.
I got called
in 1989.
Yeah. I got called sissy more times than I could possibly imagine for having long hair.
My son Peyton, who's 18, he's got blonde, real long hair, beautiful head of hair, little fucker. But yeah, and we were talking. He's like, yeah, you had long hair when you were growing up, and I was like, yeah, but having long hair when I was growing up was a little bit hard.
Yeah, I lost jobs because of my long hair.
Yeah.
I mean, I was told flat out I had to cut my hair or lose my job.
See,
long-haired freaking people.
Banding together and shit. That's actually we mentioned Mike Starry earlier, and that's how Mike. That's the first time that I noticed when I first met Mike and noticed the charisma and shit. It was because all the people from all these tiny little towns around, the little punk rock community, which was not big up here, if we were going to do shit or we were going to hang out, everybody had to kind of band together just for protection, because you got rednecks chasing you down the goddamn road. And,
for protection. Yeah. I mean, we were never, well,
we had to fight a lot.
Sure, but we wanted to.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So it's not.
I was going to say, you kind of found those situations more than the other way around.
Yeah, I don't feel in my whole, not that I've never been in danger in my life, but I've never been in danger because of who I am or what I was. And that's
having to being a teenager that has to fight grown men because you live in a town with a bunch of rednecks and shit is not the same as having to fear being lynched. Right.
Oh yeah,
it's a totally different fucking ballgame. But yeah, shit.
Yeah. No, speaking of which, I got into a discussion with somebody, and I try to keep all my personal life off of Facebook for the most part. I try to keep stuff that happens off because it doesn't really involve it. And I got into a discussion with somebody, and I'm not going to throw names out there, but I got into a discussion with somebody talking about overt police racism, right?
Yeah.
And I lived in Minneapolis from 2002, 2003, all the way till I moved up here, so 2014. So I've always had a place in Minneapolis. And for a hot minute, for 4 months, I dated an African-American woman. And I lived in Minneapolis, like I said, for a good chunk of time. How many times did I get pulled over driving in Minneapolis by myself? None. How many times did I get pulled over while I had a black passenger in my vehicle? 5.
Right.
I'm not going to deny
So
all 5 were in that 4-month window.
have you ever been stopped on your way out of Walmart and had them ask you for your receipt?
Walmart? I don't think so.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I've never had that.
Yeah.
But I work with youth and and almost every time I'm in there with one of my youth of color and we're walking up, man, instantly get stopped and check the receipt. And I'm like, I'm just like, fuck you. But,
It's so obvious.
Yep.
you
It's
know?
and that is that, what is that, overt?
Yeah.
Overt racism?
Yeah.
And it's just always there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. So,
But I think it is getting better.
I agree. I do think it is. getting better.
Incrementally, it's getting better.
Always will. You don't stop progress. You just slow it down. At
Right.
the end of the day, we move the right direction.
It can go backwards.
It can. It's rare, but
Man, I think that the last 4 years we did a backslide in a lot of things.
I think the last 4 years are the exception that proves the rule. In a certain way, look at how many people, and we've acknowledged that nobody was excited for Biden. Nobody was like, hell yes, I need Joe Biden as my president. Nobody. But yet,
Which is okay because that keeps us from like putting flags on our pickup trucks and shit and acting like idiots.
exactly. But yet, Joe Biden got more votes than.
Can you imagine that? Like big old fucking American flag.
It would be
and then,
fucking
like, a
funny.
Biden
Like,
flag
that sounds like a skit on
giant-
Saturday Night Live.
I know.
Definitely do it.
I thought about, because I've got an old Jeep Grand Wagoneer, like an old Woody.
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
I thought about actually taping up like American flags, the thin blue line flag and the Biden flag off the back of it, and then just on the front that just says 4 years of bullshit. I thought about doing that just to see the response I would get, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to get shot by either side.
Yeah.
But
that is always a tough one.
yeah, so it's
I
tough.
never even put bumper stickers on I never ever put like political bumper
Really?
stickers on my vehicle. No, man, because when you get pulled over by that fucking cop, you're not sure where he lines up.
I
So it
understand
doesn't
that.
matter whether or not it's a
Where did they just have to vote on that resolution to bar their police officers from belonging to like white power groups and shit like that? Did you read anything about that? Damn it! I should have fucking made a copy of that, and so I could.
Was it Virginia? Something I don't know. But
'cause
it
they-
wouldn't surprise me.
Well, in the vote was like, in the vote was not. It wasn't unanimous.
Of
It
course.
it was like 11-7, I think. And I'm like, that's so that's how strongly almost half of you feel about being able to belong
it
to
seems
white power
like
groups and shit
a
like
rule that shouldn't have to even be a rule.
Yeah, you would
Yeah.
think.
Why
Yeah,
would you-
absolutely think.
Like,
that, right? Like that's it would seem intuitive that like, I shouldn't be a member of the Klan because I shouldn't join this terrorist organization as a law enforcement guy. What do you guys think? Fuck. But yeah, it was. I think it was. I want to say it was 11-7. So it wasn't a ridiculously lopsided vote. I mean, good for them, but scary. Yeah.
Like, and as somebody that had a profession that was willing to spend time in jail for the First Amendment, I am a huge fan of people being able to express themselves. How, with that being said, when we give police officers extra powers than we give other citizens, and with that extra power, we can put some restrictions on it. And I would think that not being a member of the Klan would be an acceptable thing. If you are a member of the Klan, you should not be a cop.
Yep.
Just throwing that out there. You know
And
what
see,
I mean?
the weird thing about that is because of the way that whole the way that occupation is structured. I think that most officers would agree with us.
Yeah.
but a lot of them would still vote with that 7. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just to close ranks, and stick up for those guys that feel like they should be,
Yeah,
But-
I train with, I think I have 5 police officers that are in jiu-jitsu now. So like there's like you get one and they just keep coming. And I've been talking
which
to,
is so good.
oh, so good. Yeah, I just got a sheriff's deputy last Wednesday. But I've been talking to them a lot about all of this, about like how do we like fix, whatever, a lot more. But I do think that like more training is really the key, and not just like go to a diversity. Like we're going to do a diversity training and it's going to be fine. You're going to be fine, but like actually investing just like okay, so back to fiscal conservative. So like, like just like investing in pre-K has a huge payoff, investing in actual police, because I think that the whole idea of defunding the police force is a really bad tagline. But B,
That tagline is unfortunate.
horrible.
Yeah.
But B, not really. That wasn't the goal, and that shouldn't. I actually think we need to invest in our police force, like truly invest in our police force, so that they are well trained and able and capable of handling these situations without having to resort to lethal force.
Yeah, maybe go away from the paramilitary approach and a little more towards the social worker approach.
See, no, I go back and forth on that, because on the other side of it, when you have Navy SEALs don't fucking shoot people accidentally. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they are professional soldiers. Not saying that police should be trained like Navy SEALs, but it's like I kind of go back further. I liked Sam Gibbons' idea that you have like police that are unarmed, that are like your tier 1 police force, right? And then you have your tier 2 police force, which are fucking armed to the teeth. But the tier 2 police force doesn't get involved until the tier 1 police force calls them in, right? Remember he was talking about that idea?
Well, isn't that what they didn't?
That's how they
do it in
what
most
Bob
of
Wilson.
European
Yeah.
countries. I
Yeah.
mean, that's the standard
The
approach.
difference and the hard part is that there's so many fucking guns in our country.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean that's
So
that's
much violent
the
crime
truth.
overall.
Yeah, and I'll say this: when you look at it per capita, America is exceedingly violent, whether it's gun violence, etc. But when you really break it down, what you see with police violence in other countries, they don't have nearly the number of assaults on police officers that we do in the States. And I can't tell you whether that is because we kind of have a culture that, I fought the law. You know what I mean? Like there's a certain
There's
sort
a
of
fucking song.
Exactly. There's a certain thing about that with American culture fighting the system that we have that, whereas other countries don't. But I also would say that the bigger cultural issue is we don't have punishments for violent crime the way that other countries do in regards to police force. In our country, you assault a police officer, you get more crime, you get more charges, you get more years, you get more time, you get felonies.
Right.
In other countries, it's not an issue. It's not a crime in some countries to attack a cop. In Germany, it's not a crime to literally escape prison. It's not a crime. You can escape prison in Germany and not be charged with a crime. They can catch you and put you back in. But the human condition is such that they recognize that freedom...
It's kind of like that POW thing.
Yeah, the concept of freedom to them means that by imprisoning you, we recognize that we are taking away a basic human right, which is freedom. And we will never
And we
be able to...
expect you
we
to
will,
try to get your freedom back.
Yeah, we will never take that right away from you to be able to try to have freedom. So it's not a crime. Which seems so crazy to an American mindset.
If you escape, that's our bad.
Yeah, but then look at it in the American system, which is, let's say you get nailed for dealing pot in college, whatever. Okay, it's pot, whatever, but it's the 90s crime laws that Biden put in. And you're going away for 7 to 10 years, right, for selling pot. God forbid you actually try to escape prison, and now you're going to go away for 20. So now you've got people serving 27 years for a pot offense and trying
Well,
to participate
yeah.
in
I mean,
their lives. You know?
Our prison industrial complex is like
Yeah.
That shit needs
it's
to be.
ridiculous. I mean, it's ridiculous. Like we're talking about some big ass problems here.
Oh yeah, I mean,
know?
that's everything with the Democrats. Though,
Hey.
is we always have to talk about 100 different things to get to the root of the problem, which is poverty.
We've been
Right.
indeed. We've been kind of tough on Joe Biden, but what about the corporate prison thing?
I was actually stoked for that.
That was because that shit's a big deal. We've talked
Explain
about
it to me.
Yeah.
He doesn't like it. You know,
Okay, John, explain it.
Okay, I got this. No.
so it was an executive order. So, fuck yeah, please.
All right. So, you know about private prisons, right? We don't need to dive into that.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So Biden basically created an executive order that basically says that he's not closing down private prisons. He's basically saying that the federal government will no longer contract with federal prisons. So basically,
With private prisons.
Private prisons.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, misspoke there. So basically what it is the people that are there now, if there's room in federal prisons, it sounds like they'll get moved to federally run prisons. If there isn't room, they're still going to have the private prisons, but they're not going to add population into the private prisons. They are going to constantly de-escalate the population. So the goal is, and realistically, we don't have enough room in our federal prison system to be able to do that right now, because when we created private prisons, we also created a whole bunch of crimes to fill those prisons.
Right.
And so we charged a whole lot more people to fill the prisons.
Was it a New York judge, the one that got busted for basically selling black kids to?
Oh, there's been a couple of judges that have gone down for that over the last 10, 15
that
years.
shit, like.
Yeah.
Even though I'm sure what happened to those guys was like those guys probably never saw the inside of a jail, but what the fuck is worse than that? You know, like that's fucking disgusting. And those guys, you know, like they should have been right in there in the dirtiest, nastiest.
So they were. So
shittiest
the
fucking
judge
hole
was
in the-
like
in the we've
was
got.
like sentencing somebody to go to prison.
Yes.
And then getting paid by the prison to which
Basically,
prison
yeah.
they were going to
Yes.
send. They like
Yes.
the highest bidder gets him.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
There-
pretty sick.
kind of like
Yeah.
If it sounds like a slave auction,
Yeah,
It's probably
was,
it's probably a slave
the actual trial quote was, "If you want to think of him as a slave trader, that would be the most apt job description." And that's like, wow,
Huh.
that's pretty brutal. Like, but it's absolutely true. But I mean, there have been other cases where you've had judges that have PAC money that gets funneled to them.
Right.
It happens. It does.
What is there's like a law of nature that whatever it is will grow to its capacity.
Yeah.
You know, and that's so like when we have more prisons than any other. Right, we have more than any other country.
We have more people.
higher percentage of our population
Yeah.
incarcerated.
I know we have a higher percentage than any other country.
I mean,
I think we.
if it's close, it would be China, but I still think that we probably outdo China because China doesn't officially report a whole bunch of people that they imprison. That's not really their shtick. They don't like to document when people disappear. They just sort of disappear. So
Solid.
yeah,
So, but yeah, so we have this huge, prison system, and that's why we have so much of a population. You know.
yeah. Well, I think when
Well,
you
it's
look at
the
it,
money, man. It's the money.
Yeah.
There's big money in it. Like especially like when you privatize it. Oh, weird. Now you've got all these problems with corruption because there's so much money in it.
And the thing is,
fucking
is
strange,
is-
just like every fucking thing else.
And the thing
Absolutely.
is that is such a that is such a fiscally conservative, stupid way to do something. Why would you privatize a prison? So now, the taxpayer now is subsidizing a private, for-profit company to provide something. I don't. Yeah, that's absolutely fucking ridiculous.
originally, here's how they pitched it. Let me tell you the pitch that they gave when private prisons kind of came out, and that'll kind of change your mind. Federal prisons spend anywhere between $28,000 to $40,000 a year per inmate. Federal prison.
Okay.
That's how much it costs to put them in. We've got private prisons that are saying that they can do it for $25,000, and God knows, government can't do anything right. Why
Yeah.
don't we give these people a shot, and we're going to give them 25 grand.
And we'll do
it.
away with overcrowding. It'll be better for everybody.
Exactly. So now they open up a prison, and sure, it's 25 grand this year, and then it becomes 30, 35 grand, et cetera, et cetera. The trade-off is that in the federal prison, we know what we're providing them.
Right.
We know what services are coming in and coming out. We don't do that with private prisons.
Meanwhile, who's awarding these contracts and stuff like that? Like who's in charge of all this? Well, they're getting fucking, politicians, and they're getting fucking greased by the prison industrial complex,
Absolutely.
So, I mean,
Yeah, and that's what we're always fighting against. And so when you see these numbers going up, the whole concept of capitalist in a business is, one, you maximize your income by getting as many dollars as you can to come in, and you minimize your expenses going out. That maximizes your profits. That's what basically is required to be a stockholder. That's what's required of public companies, is they have to operate in the fiscal interest of the shareholder.
Right.
Which means you have publicly traded companies running prisons, which means they have to reduce all the expenses humanly possible. So would you think that a company that is literally by law forced to reduce expenses because they're a publicly traded company is providing the best health care to these prisoners? Do they not deserve health care because they're prisoners? No, of course they do.
What do you think the food's like?
Exactly.
It's-
Everything across the board is going to be awful. So now we've created inhuman conditions, and Lord knows we've done that numerous times, but we don't address the problem because we've been sold that it's cheaper and government can't do anything, which is BS.
Right.
So
Not to say that the government hasn't really fucked up some pretty.
Oh, sure. But but it's a question of will. Can the government do it? Of course they can. Can they do it efficiently? Of course they can. Will they?
Right.
look at Medicare and Medicaid. Best example.
Great
I can talk
example,
to.
actually.
Yeah. Overhead costs for Medicare in the United States in 2015, 1.3% of all the money that went into it went to overhead costs. You know how much the overhead costs for healthcare went for private insurance?
70?
49%.
Ah.
Yeah, 49%, which means literally 49 cents on every dollar you paid
Medicare and
for your-
Medicaid are they're pretty great programs.
Yeah.
Not perfect, but
Oh,
they're
God,
pretty
no.
great.
But then you'll hear Republicans say, well, Medicaid costs us $2.6 trillion a year. Isn't that terrifying? Really? $2.6 trillion? How much do you pay in taxes? Look at the burden that the rich person has to pay, because you think the people that make your level of money are paying $2.6 trillion for healthcare? Of course not. So your taxes are going to have to go up in order to get healthcare. And that's how they pitch it. They pitch it
Right.
so it's this terrifying concept of it's going to be super expensive, coupled with knowing that you're poor, but you're a soon-to-be millionaire, so you want to protect the millionaire's taxes.
Right.
So how dare we ask these people that have actually been what you are just about to be to actually pay for the system? They use these incredibly contrived concepts, yet we don't mention that healthcare in and of itself, if nobody went to a hospital, if nobody went in, do you know how much the healthcare industry brings in a given year? And talking insurance, not healthcare, the insurance industry. How much do they charge in a given year?
Oh.
About $19 trillion U.S. That's about what the insurance runs.
So we were talking when I was on my fucking high horse on the whole universal healthcare thing, like I was like interviewing people about their employer provided healthcare, and like Meta, she works for the school district. She's got pretty damn good insurance.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good insurance. It's still fucking expensive.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
still really
We have great
expensive.
insurance.
Her
Still fucking
out-of-pocket
expensive as fuck.
expenses are fucking crazy. So
Well, the ridiculous deductibles and shit like that, like
hers don't have
individual,
horrible.
whatever, like ours, great insurance, but individual deductible for an individual, $3,000,
Yeah.
like
So I think
$3,000 seems like a lot,
I think Meta pays like it's somewhere around $800 a month. And I don't know what it is, how much of it goes into the. But if you just think about it, if there was universal health care, and she had to pay $800 more a month in taxes, which is a lot. That's a lot to pay in taxes.
Yeah.
But now you have universal health care,
Yeah.
and you don't have to pay that for health. So it's like people are like, well, we can, whatever. Like it's such a bad argument, right? And then guess what? those employers are not then having to make that contribution.
Exactly.
And in this case, in Meta's case, it's actually the taxpayer anyway that's end up making that making that payment because it's through her employer, which is the school district. But they don't have to pay that then. So now they have more money to pay their employees, so their employees can pay more taxes, so they can provide better health care. It's just a no fucking brainer.
Yeah. You nailed everything on it. Here's the one thing that I always use to kind of summarize everything when it comes down to healthcare. At the end of the day, you literally, if you take all of us collectively, the idea of insurance is that if we all put in a little bit when something catastrophic happens, like what happened to me, there's money there to pay that out.
Right.
We can do that with taxes the same as insurance and not pay a profit on it.
Right.
Why wouldn't we do that?
Oh, well,
As in a logical step.
no, because
is there any way that
the
we
extortionists will be
Yes.
out of business.
Exactly. We are going to run the mob's extortionists out of a job, and that's awful. No, I mean, it's mind-boggling to me that it is literally the most fiscally conservative approach to healthcare, and we refuse to do it.
Yeah.
And we refuse to do it because there's profit to be made. Profit is typically made by businesses.
And I think the answer is runoff ranked choice voting.
Ranked choice voting, honestly, would be the death knell of the two-party system.
It would be the death knell, and it would be it pretty much eliminates. Doesn't eliminate, but it pretty much takes the power out of lobbyists.
Yeah, it would to a strong extent.
Yeah.
The only lobbyists that would ever do good are going to be lobbyists that argue on behalf of a particular issue, not necessarily on behalf of a business or a charity. It's always going to be an issue driven.
But if it's big, it would take the power out of big pharma's lobbyists. Much of the power.
Only if you can reduce the candidates that receive big money's power from getting into office.
But if you have ranked choice voting, then the power is reduced just because, okay, I'm big pharma, right? I got a Democrat, I got a Republican, and I got a wacko, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, everybody actually likes the wacko,
Yeah.
but they can't vote for him because I don't want to get fucking raped like I did with Nader,
Yeah.
right? So I don't vote for wacko, even though he's the guy I actually think could do the job.
Yeah.
I have to choose one of you. Well, now I can choose wacko. Well, that takes so much power out of whoever the lobbyist is, because it gives me the opportunity to actually vote for who I think could do the job. But if they don't get enough votes, then it goes back to my second. So, I mean, I know you know how ranked choice voting goes,
Yeah.
but I think that would be the most important thing. And it's actually something. So, like, when you start looking at, like, what can we actually fix? Okay, look. We probably can't take money out of politics or whatever they call campaign finance reform.
Yeah, that's tough.
It's really tough.
Yeah.
It's a really hard thing to do. We probably can't, but what we can do is we can get ranked choice voting, and you can do that at a city level, at a county level, at a state level, and eventually at a federal level, and that would be probably the most powerful thing I think we could possibly do.
I would want America to do that. I would absolutely want America to do that. I think the problem with it is, and I'll throw this out there as somebody that actually supports ranked choice voting, the problem with it is that it still doesn't remove the ultimate truth of money in politics, which is, in your example, you've got three candidates. You've got the Republican, the Democrat, and the wacko. You really want to vote for the wacko. But let's say it's Big Pharma. Are they going to be giving money to the Democrat? No. Are they going to be giving money to the wacko? No. They will be giving money to the Republican. And now they're going to throw in more money to balance out the wacko's appeal. They're going to use more money to go in to support their candidate because they know they're going to have fewer candidates with fewer odds. So they're going to need to increase the marketability of those particular candidates.
But actually, it probably won't be like that. It won't be 3. It'll be 12.
Yeah, but that's the idea. That's the goal.
I mean, is it Ireland that is all like ranked choice voting?
I can't remember.
There's a lot of countries, but I think Ireland
Yeah.
is, or Scotland, one of them. And they, for any given race, they'll have 10, 12 candidates. Yeah. Because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. if you want your buddy to win and he's gonna run, but he's just your buddy, he probably ain't gonna win.
Yeah.
You still vote for him. You still pick him as number one. Because what are the chances that idiot's gonna get in? You know what I mean?
Could you imagine?
He'd do all right.
I was just gonna say, I think that you'd be all right. I've got no issues with that. I'd run that campaign for you.
We've done worse.
Oh, the skeletons would be dropping out of the closet.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, boys, do you have anything else on your list? I gotta pee again, so we should probably wrap this up.
Yeah,
I'm good.
Awesome. Well, John, it was a pleasure to actually meet you face to face.
Yeah,
you are just
absolutely.
as cool and charming in real life as you
and this has
as
been
you are on
great.
Facebook. Yeah, really fun.
Yeah,
really fun.
Thank you
And
guys for getting me out of the house.
Yeah,
You know?
we'll definitely have to do it again.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Indeed.
Next time there's a tragedy in our electoral system.
Exactly.
There's a tragedy in our electoral system every day.
Exactly. Let's bring John in to bring everybody down.
I guess
I'll take the hit.
I guess you're just the third person on football. All right, guys. We will see you guys next week.
It's late, and my mind it wanders to fate, and I start to ponder. Maybe I could try to change the world. Why can't I try to change the world? And maybe I'll find a cure for cancer. And maybe I'll be a famous actor. Anything to make me seem noble. Anything better than being normal. I like to save endangered animals, and I like to try to fix the ozone hole, and I like to save the big redwood tree, but I think I'll just sit here and watch TV. We don't care what happens all around us, as long as it doesn't affect us. 'Cause that smart guy said that it's okay. Ever wonder how that guy gets paid? And you say that we got bills to pay, and you say that we got work on Monday, and I'm really comfy on this couch. Guess I'll let our children sort it out. I like to save endangered animals, and I like to try to fix the ozone hole, and I like to save the big redwood tree, but I guess I'll just sit here and watch TV. Just to watch TV. You're lying next to me in our American dream. You're lying next to me in our American dream. You're lying next to me in our American